Hello and welcome to Pixelated Realms, your guide through the digital landscape, untangling the mysteries of your favorite titles and discussing the latest and greatest in video game fun. I'm your host, Alex Salerno, and alongside me is my brother Tyler and my good friend Dustin. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey,
what's up?
welcome
So,
back, everyone.
yeah, and today's kind of a special episode. So we're gonna go over the Game Awards bit by bit. We're gonna go over every announcement, every award, and talk a little bit about some of the drama that has been surfacing around this. And we're really excited because this is like, it's the Oscars essentially of the gaming industry, but a little bit more so because the Oscars don't announce new movies.
I agree. There's a lot to talk about, and we were really excited texting back and forth while the Game Awards was going on. So we're trying to bring all that excitement to you live here today. I hope you guys watched it. If you didn't, it was a really interesting program, filled with ups and downs and drama, and so yeah, we're really excited to talk about it today with you. Cat today, my cat Calcifer. Yeah, he's joining us today for his podcast. Not a big gamer, but
No.
Yeah,
He likes to try and participate, just doesn't know how.
it's true. It's true.
I have a question for you guys before we really dive into some of this stuff. Geoff Keighley, what does he do in between Game Awards and Summer Games Fest? Like, what is his job in life? I always wonder, like, he's just this man of mystery. Like, how does he make money?
I mean, he's a professional video game. That's what he is.
He's a gaming personality at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of positioned himself as the face of gaming over the last 5 years for sure, solidified it with the Game Awards and, Summer Games Fest. And then he also has basically killed E3 at this point with his show. So he's got the E3 replacement that I'm blanking on the name. He's got Gamescom. He does a big thing there. And then he has now TGAs. So, I mean, I think that, like, from what he even said, right, after the show, I don't know if you saw, but during the recap, he was talking about, that they're already looking at, like, where they're going to have the event next year. So, like, it takes, like, Tyler, you know this better than anybody, like, it takes, like, a full year for them to plan the TGAs and get everything aligned. So I think he's just honestly in the background, like, planning these things. He's talking to developers and studios, publishers about, like, getting their game on the show. Some of those people get their game on there for free if it's like something super hype. Some people have to pay. So it's just like he is that voice having those conversations with the big people, trying to get them to be there. But yeah, I mean, I think he makes all his money generally from these 3 shows. I don't know how much he pays himself, but I know it's not a little amount.
It's not
It should
peanuts.
be something. Yeah. So yeah. Geoff, and I'm learning more about him too as well. I mean, obviously, I remember Geoff from G4 TV. I mean, when I was a kid, we.
I knew him as a journalist, not as this like icon.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, or a little bit of the younger crowd here, there was this old TV channel called G4 TV, and Geoff and Olivia Munn, right? It was a Geoff and Olivia Munn. Yeah, it's just the weirdest thing. And they talked about video games. I mean, it was like the coolest thing to turn on when you were a kid. We didn't have like YouTube or Reddit to go to and see what the best, and latest video games were. So we turned on G4 TV. I highly recommend you give it a Google search and check it out, because it was super entertaining. And it was like really like the first TV version of like video game discussion and community and talking about games. It was the best, honestly. It was the best.
And it brought a lot of personalities into the gaming sphere. Chris Hardwick, Kevin Pereira, Candace Bailey, Blair Butler. I'm looking at a list. Adam Sessler, Morgan Webb. Do you remember like all these people?
Morgan Webb, yeah, wow.
Like Sarah Underwood, like tons and tons of people. I mean, I could keep going on, right? Sarah Lane, but
it was such a cool. Like,
is that really where Geoff Keighley, like, that's just what he pivoted from? He was just a journalist, and then one day he's like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna become the man of video games. I'm gonna become the poster child of video games."
I'm sure there's a deeper story that we could dive into, and like they could probably make a whole documentary on it. But I just have a lot of respect for him in general. Like, it's a huge undertaking of creating an award show, creating and trying to kind of wrangle all these different developers and create these shows. Just as Dustin kind of mentioned to earlier, something I've never mentioned on the podcast is I actually do event production as my full-time day job. So award shows like these are actually something I do day to day from a production and technical element. So things like the audio, the staging, the projection, videos, lighting. That's what I do professionally. So it was really hard to watch the Game Awards from a casual perspective. When really in my head I was like, okay, cue here, audio cue, video cue. Okay, someone's screaming over comms here. So it provides me a unique perspective for today's conversation because I think I have a lot of I would say sympathies for maybe some of the criticisms of the award of the awards that happened. You know, you could still have a legit criticism, but like I can kind of give you a real perspective on like, look, like this is why they were cutting off speeches too early in the beginning and why they extended it by the end. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. I just wanted to say I thought it was really enjoyable. And Geoff must put an incredible amount of personal effort and care into this show because it shows. So as I said, I've done award shows like this dozens and dozens of times. 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, I would say, these hosts are just people who are hired by the organization and they show up and they do their job and they go home. That is clearly not the case with Geoff. He is clearly 100% the leader of this show, and he is the one who makes it happen, clearly. There's always people behind the scenes, but I just wanted to shout out Geoff and give him some really great appreciation because it's not easy to do something like this. It's incredibly difficult. It costs a lot of money. You wouldn't even believe how much money something like this costs.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it just, love it or hate it, it does a lot for the video gaming community and raises us all up. And so, yeah, big appreciation to Geoff and what he does. And I was pleasantly entertained by this year's Game Awards with the ups and the downs.
Yeah. Geoff, if you're out there, we want you on our show.
Yes, we love you, Geoff.
We want to interview you. Yeah, no, I totally agree. He's a man of mystery. He does a lot of behind the scenes work and has really brought a lot of fun hype to the industry. Where E3 has started to fall, he has picked up the slack with Summer's Games Fest. Was it GamesCon, TGA?
Without him, I don't think we would have the relationships to have what they have at the Game Awards, right? I don't think without Geoff we would have the pull to bring in every major studio, bring in Kojima, bring in, whatever, Timothy Chalamet. So I think he's the driving force. And yeah, and it's amazing to see him, get on stage and kind of elevate video gaming to this level.
Yeah, it's great to see, and we love to see it. And I mean, obviously, we're super hyped about the Game Awards, so it's great that he was able to put that together and get it to where it is today. So first, a little housekeeping. So it's holiday season, so I think next week we're probably going to have an episode, but then after that we're going to skip for 2 weeks, if that sounds good with you guys. So that is the 19th. We will have an episode. And then the next week is the Christmas holiday, and the week after that is the New Year's holiday. So we're going to skip those 2 weeks. So anybody who's listening right now, we have one episode after this, and then we're taking a holiday break, and we'll come back to you and let you know how that's going to go.
Don't worry, that gives us some time to play some games, so we can come back with some deeper dives.
Yeah, it's always good to have game time. Dustin needs more game time.
I do need more game time. I was thinking for next week, what might be kind of cool too is do like a gift guide thing where like we
love that idea.
Deals out there and like what games we'd recommend people should pick up for Christmas or with the money they get for Christmas. That'd be kind of cool.
I think that's a great idea. Set in stone. It's decided. Maybe we even do a little bit like a let's play along with it. Some of the games we can think about it as we go along. Love that idea. So before we dive in, we really appreciate those who have followed and subscribed to us. We post new episodes every Tuesday at 8 a.m. East Coast time. Even though we're on the West Coast, I posted at 5 Pacific. it's available on podcast services and YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Pixelated Realms Podcast. We really appreciate if you guys show your support to subscribe. Right now, that's the absolute best way to do so. Comment on our videos, create that discourse. We love to hear from you.
Tell Alex and I how much we look like each other, please.
Yeah, that's a very popular one.
Especially when you guys wear your glasses.
Oh yeah, should I put my glasses on?
Well, now that I have shorter hair too, it's like even worse.
I know. We should get the same shirt one time, and like we could just be like, all right, guess who? Play that game. So we appreciate everyone who is supporting us. Also, don't forget we have, and you guys are gonna have to remind me that at the end of this to check it. Actually, I can check it right now. But if you go to pixelatedrealms.org/ask, you can ask us questions and we will answer them live.
Please do.
So please, if you have any feedback, anything, you can ask anything. Whether or not we bring it up is going to be context dependent, but you can ask us anything. Ask us a question, give us feedback, a comment, topic you want us to talk about, anything. So it's pixelatedrealms.org/ask.
I'll advocate for the weird questions. Don't worry, everyone.
Okay. Lots of questions about Dustin's shirts.
Yeah.
That's
Bulma. Okay, it's Bulma, low-key geeks. Guys, throw me some free ones. I rap you every week.
Yeah, if we get banned on YouTube, it's because of him.
Yeah. I'll wear the tame one. This is tame. It's just like a thong.
We'll join all the Mortal Kombat content creators by getting banned for explicit content.
It's a rite of passage. You don't have to restart your channel, then what are you even doing?
Yeah, true story. All right. So let's go now. I think we're going to go down the list of winners and do kind of a reaction. We're not going to do every single one, but we'll do most of them, I think, and we'll do all of the big ones. We'll save Game of the Year for last. So I'm going to kind of do a little bit of the reverse order here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So Player's Voice Award went to Baldur's Gate 3. Any surprises there?
Not at all.
I don't think so either.
Not a surprise, but I would have loved to see Cameron Monaghan win, only because he's a really cool dude. I've met him when I was working at Jedi Fallen Order, and he's done a really great job with that series. So,
Which
series?
It's the right one, right? Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong award.
Are you thinking of the voice actor? This is just voice in general.
There's just one for that also.
No, this is people's choice of game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, player's choice of voice.
Yeah. That makes sense. That Baldur's Gate 3 won.
Wait, it's player's voice.
Player's voice.
Player's voice is a exclusively
this is just the one that's
player
100%
voted
on
game.
Oh, okay. I'm an idiot.
It's not
that makes a lot more
voice
sense.
acting. Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would thought that would have been called player's choice, but player's voice.
Yeah, 100% voted on by the fans.
Yep.
So,
I'm actually I'll actually put a wrench in this. I actually am surprised that Legend of Zelda kind of didn't take this one.
Yeah.
Because of all of the comments we got on our Instagram. Everyone was like, last time we were like, Baldur's Gate 3 is going to clean house. And we were right. But everybody in the comments were like, yo, Tears of the Kingdom's going to take it. Tears of the Kingdom's going to take it. So I'm surprised that the player's choice didn't reflect that.
I truly believe what I said was the reason it didn't. I think that the already of having won for Breath of the Wild severely impacted its ability to win again, just like God of War Ragnarok didn't win.
I agree.
Yep, I agree
It's not as appealing from a voting standpoint, from a judging standpoint, from a theatrical standpoint to kind of like keep giving it to that second movie. Like, it's just the psychology of awards, I think, a little bit. So
I mean, actors have dealt with the same thing, right? Like we talked about this. Tom Hanks should have won Best Actor for Castaway, but he lost to Russell Crowe for Gladiator, and he was great in Gladiator. Russell Crowe killed Gladiator, but
wonderful.
No one talks to volleyball like Tom Hanks talks to volleyball.
And no one ever will again.
Yeah. So, I mean, but Tom Hanks already had 2 or 3 Oscars, and Russell Crowe had never won. So it's like, okay, this is Russell Crowe's moment.
Yep.
Yeah. I try not to fight that stuff too much. It's just kind of the reality of how human psychology works.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Baldur's Gate deserves it. It was Larian. I mean, and I'm sorry, folks, if you're tired of me just saying positive things about Baldur's Gate. I mean, I'm not even joking. I'm still on Act 1, and I have like 30, 40 hours on the same save. Worked so well with the community and it's a challenging thing. Gaming communities are challenging because you're going to get an opinion.
And we'll have more time to talk about that in a coming award, so hold that thought.
Oh.
Next one is Best Adaptation, The Last of Us. And this is movie adaptation. Any surprises? No.
No, of course.
No. This was a clear winner.
Yeah, you don't even have to even talk about that one, honestly. That was
serious. Next.
Yep.
Okay, most anticipated game.
Super Mario movie was fantastic. But
which one?
Yeah, Last of Us killed it.
Super Mario movie.
Oh,
you know what? Maybe this is a good time to talk about Anthony Mackie, because he was the one who presented this award.
Okay, was anyone else like? Is
Cringe.
Anthony Mackie like drunk? Like, did he like do shots before he got on stage? Like,
or is that just how he is?
Yeah. It was so funny. Like he just kept interacting with the audience, and the audience kept interacting back, and it was just like
because they would like heckle him, and they knew he would say something, and like I have absolutely no evidence to support this, but like seeing his like interviews and the way he snips at people a lot,
silly.
like
yeah.
he seems kind of like a spicy personality.
Yeah.
Like he seems like someone who like will fight you publicly on stage if you were
just
to be like,
fun.
You suck. He'd be like, bring it. Like.
He was definitely a highlight. I was sitting there laughing when he was on stage. I mean,
oh my God.
I haven't seen the Twisted Metal. It's a TV show.
It's a show. Yeah.
Yeah. So I gotta say, after I was like, well, maybe I should watch a couple episodes.
Maybe he did his job right, he's there to promote the show. He doesn't give a flying fuck about the games. He doesn't even have that guy. He doesn't even have social media. Are you telling me this guy plays video games? No, there's no way.
Yeah,
I don't know if he plays video games or not, but I do like that. If he's just like a fun personality, if you think about this, like, okay, so PR moment here. You get so many people in front of crowds or press, and like they don't want to be there. They don't embrace the opportunity to grow their brand and realize that if I'm an energetic and fun person, that can help my career.
Absolutely.
And like it's something on the PR front that we have to talk to spokespeople about, like especially when I was working in esports with players. Tell them like, dude, embrace the moment, embrace the opportunity to talk to press here and be on video and grow your brand so that when you retire, you have a following. People actually like you. But it's so hard to get across. So hopefully Anthony Mackie just embraces that opportunity here and everything he does and is like, hey, I'm going to go out on stage. I'm going to have a good fucking time and I'm going to interact with the crowd and I'm just going to, have fun. And so...
I mean, I think we're going to talk about this more as the episode progresses as well, but I completely agree. I think a lot of people in the video game community, as I don't think is any surprise, like cannot be super great on the mic sometimes or create awkward or kind of strange moments. As someone who works in production and film and all this, we want things to move steadily ahead and to stay on topic, right? You don't have a lot of time. You need to follow the schedule. So when you have someone who's like sitting there like delaying or like being a little bit awkward, which I think we'll talk about when we talk about Kojima and his visit, you kind of, as a producer, you're sitting in the mic saying, okay, come on, Geoff, come on, we need to go. So you're trying to like milk that moment because a lot of people love Kojima or whatever the moment is, but you're on a schedule. You need to keep that show moving. You have, you might not have like commercial breaks as they are now, back in the old days, but you're still trying very strictly to meet a schedule. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we talk about them for speech lengths and how that kind of played out.
Yeah. I think going back to Anthony Mackie real quick, I don't think like what you were saying, like, building his image and stuff like that. I think the consensus.
He's Captain America.
Well, well, sort of. And but I don't know if this did him any favors.
Captain America.
Well, he is, but the full movie hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
So he's only in that show. But I don't know if he's did himself any favors with this because the consensus I think is that it was a pretty awkward interaction and that it kind of made him look a little bit like a jerk. But was it entertaining? Yes, it was entertaining.
Like one good opportunity to like kind of change your image where like, he's Captain America, he's been in the MCU, but you know, I mean, that hasn't always done everyone favors. Like I like Brie Larson, you know, I like her as Captain Marvel. I don't understand the hate. And it's funny enough, because this is actually a connection here. I was going to say, like, Channing Tatum. Okay, everyone looked at Channing Tatum as like a rom-com, like he can't act. It's just like the girls love him. Until 21 Jump Street. I feel like 21 Jump Street completely. That was the movie where all the guys were like, "I fucking like this guy. He's a funny guy."
He is a funny guy.
Because Brie Larson is also in that movie, and I love her in 21 Jump Street as well. So that's why I have an affinity towards her with Captain Marvel. But yeah, you know, like again, like seizing the opportunity. Like, you know, you never know. Like, could this be about all these gamers who millions of people watching the Game Awards? Like, dude, Anthony Mackie, like he's kind of crazy, but I dig it. You know, like,
yeah.
It could be a bit of a like any press is good press kind of moment. Like I do think he was a little, I don't know, weird. I don't think you should be yelling shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up over and over again on a mic, but either way, I don't know. It was a little weird, but
we're talking about him.
We're talking about it. Exactly.
You know. All right, next award. What was that? Best adaptation. All right, most anticipated game. So for this one, I want to read out the actual nominees before I announce the winner. So it was Tekken 8, Star Wars Outlaws, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Hades 2, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth took this one home.
Statistically, it makes sense. I don't think I don't want to look into this award too much. I think there's a lot of players who love the Final Fantasy games. I loved the remake personally. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's too much to look into when it comes to this one. What was the other? Sorry, read them off again.
Hades, Like a Dragon, Star Wars Outlaws, Tekken 8.
I was just gonna say I voted for Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to that one.
I would have said Hades 2 for me, and then Star Wars Outlaws, because Star Wars is like 50-50 nowadays, whether or not it's going to be good. Even though I'm a huge Star Wars fan, got a Star Wars tattoo. But I'm not surprised at all. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth took this one. Final Fantasy VII has a frenzy of a crowd, and everyone rides that nostalgia wave for so hard. I mean,
if you ask somebody who are the best two gaming franchises ever, it's almost always Final Fantasy and Zelda. And those are going to be like your top two, most likely. So anytime one of those games is in the most anticipated by itself, like you're probably going to see that one win.
Yeah. No surprise.
If Ghost of Tsushima 2 had been announced yet, I would have been like, that should win, because I'm really looking forward to that. Whenever
Hell yeah! That's going to be worth a whole episode when that happens.
Sorry, what did you say? What game?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, I thought one of the games was actually that for a second too, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, I wish. Next one, best esports team.
Yeah.
JD Gaming. Anybody give a shit?
Team Vitality should have won. Frankly,
I'm not familiar with JD Gaming. Frankly, sorry guys.
Evil Geniuses.
No, I mean EG had a good VCT. They won champs. They've had a lot of turmoil. I know a lot of people there. I used to work with the team back in 2022. A lot of good people work there. But yeah, Vitality should have won. They won the Counter-Strike Major this year. They also did a clean sweep for Rocket League, winning the LCS championship as well as both majors, I believe. So two of their teams pretty much like clean house in their respective esport. So and Counter-Strike is globally as popular, right below League of Legends. I don't know what JD Gaming won, because I know TK or T1 won Worlds. So yeah, I'm not really sure what JD Gaming won or why they were picked, but whatever.
I think that one's just a community, like the developer vote. So who
honestly,
knows?
I really don't think esports teams or people really give a shit about the Game Awards. They have the Esports Awards. That's kind of their Oscars for the industry. So it might be a cool thing, but I don't really think anyone they care that much.
Yeah. You bring up an interesting point, how like esports and the like regular general gaming industry are so like divided, which is such an interesting thing to kind of think about, right? Like they're not in sync, which is I think one of the problems with why esports hasn't like caught on as much as people would have liked, because it's like you said, like esports and then the general gaming industry don't really like overlap in the same way. Like the people who love games for games don't love esport games for esports, right?
Well, that's
Well,
because esports games are typically older games, right? They've been around a long time. They're not the most popular. Like League of Legends is vastly popular, but no one's talking about League anymore. You know, from an
Yeah.
IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer perspective, no one's talking about Counter Strike. No one's talking about Rocket League. You know, so all these games that have esports teams because they've been around a long time, they have a following, but it's not getting clicks. It's not
Yeah.
attracting really new players that much. So just a
Well, I
different
think
vibe.
esports is a very this is a whole like episode or series of episodes to talk about it, because esports for it is different, right? It's different per game. So, someone can be really into League of Legends and they're following League of Legends esports, but that does not automatically mean you can understand Counter-Strike esports. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think esports is a very challenging topic because it's game specific, and games change. Games change over time. Football, yes, changes over time, but it's a lot slower of a progression as, oh, we patched. You don't patch a football, you patch, like a game, and it affects things significantly.
Right.
So to me, esporting is a really complicated subject. I personally love esports. I even watch some esports of games I don't play. But there's this inherent issue with a lot of esports that they're not easy to understand if you do not
Mm-hmm.
play the game, right?
Good point.
As our listeners might remember, I really like Mortal Kombat esports. I'm not good at Mortal Kombat, but I really enjoy watching it. And that's its own community and its own thing, but that's far detached from Counter-Strike or League of Legends. They're also specific. So I would love to talk about esports more and get Dustin's great PR input on how all that works. But it's a big topic, and I wouldn't, Alex, I know Alex and myself are not particular experts in esports. But I am happy to say, we might have some guests in the future who work for esporting companies or have competed in esports
Probably get
themselves.
my buddy Dustin Steiner, who's been an
Another
esports
Dustin.
journalist for about 10 years. Yeah.
Wow.
He worked for Dexerto. He worked for PvP Live. I mean, he's basically worked for every major outlet. He's a PR person now as well, but he has a lot of knowledge about it. But yeah, I mean, the tagline for esports is easy to play, hard to master.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is like
Sure.
literally the tagline
Mhm.
for any great esport.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's Nicole, the former CEO of EG, who went out very poorly of the industry because of some drama. But I do like the way she used to talk about a team, and she compared it to college athletics. Like, you might be a fan of San Diego State, but San Diego State has a softball team, a football team, a baseball team, a water
Right.
polo team. All these different teams that are like vastly different sports, but they're all under one umbrella. And I always thought that was a good way to talk about like
That is a
esports
good
from
way.
an organization point of view.
All right, I'm going to bring us
Anyway,
back around to the
yeah,
Game Awards
yeah.
because we could easily talk about
I
this
know, everyone's
forever.
a tangent. Yeah.
So the next like 5 categories are all esports. So I'm just going to kind of go boom, 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 and we can talk about them all at once.
Cool.
So best esports game, Valorant won. Best esports event, League of Legends World Championship. Best
That's
esports coach, Christine Potter Chi. Sorry if
Yep.
I'm saying that wrong.
No, you got it right. She's the
Okay.
coach of the Valorant team for Evil Geniuses. She did a
Oh,
good job.
awesome. Best esports athlete, Lee Faker Song
Faker.
Yeah,
Faker.
just say
Faker's
What'd I
the
say?
most legendary
T1
League of Legends
best,
player.
I'm just going to say
Yeah.
Faker. I don't want to mess up his last name.
Yeah.
greatest league player of all time.
Greatest league player. Yeah. Ever.
First
Awesome.
player ever in any esport to get a $1 million plus salary. So the guy is
He's a
an
prodigy.
absolute beast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Nailed it. All right. Anything to say on any of that? I think we're good.
No, I mean, it's,
I don't know any of these creators either. So for the next
we don't really focus on esports as much. I think congratulations to all these folks, and glad to see these categories on there because I think it deserves it.
Yeah. Next one is Content Creator of the Year. Iron Mouse won. I didn't know who this was. I had to look it up. They're like a VR or a virtual streamer.
A VTuber.
VTuber. Yeah, VTuber. So, good for them.
Yeah.
Best multiplayer game, Baldur's Gate 3. I'm actually a little surprised about this one, to be
I
honest.
was a tiny bit surprised about that as well. Alex and I have played Baldur's Gate multiplayer together. It was seamless. It was great. It was fun. That being said, to me personally, Baldur's Gate 3 is the kind of game that you inevitably have to enjoy solo because it's a 90, 100-hour game. So trying to like get you and your buddy or your friend, to sit there and like go that 100 hours, that's for most people that's challenging. If you and your friends have no problem with it, good for you, man. You guys are killing it.
Yeah, seriously.
But for me and most of my friends, we tend to like drop off. So I was a little surprised by that. What was our other nominees?
Diablo 4, Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
I feel like all of these are kind of, I don't know what Party Animals is, but the other,
it's like Fall Guys kind of thing.
I'd say those are all like also kind of weird multiplayer titles. Like, sure, Diablo 4 is multiplayer, but you can play the whole game by yourself. Like, you're in an open world, So
they could have picked like actual strong multiplayer games. Like, I don't know. Yeah, to me that list is a little surprising.
Like Street Fighter 6, like sure it's multiplayer, but like not in like the. It's not Call of Duty, right? Like that's what I think that's what you expect from a game, from a category like this. Is like Call of Duty, Battlefield, PUBG, like these like World of Warcraft. Even I would say would be like a fucking better like multiplayer game. Although I feel like that's still kind of more like Diablo 4.
With exception possibly to Party Animals because I haven't played that one. None of these games. And maybe there's an argument for Diablo 4, but none of these games I feel like were like multiplayer first design, right? They didn't design these with like with co-op in mind. They didn't design these.
Well, co-op was in mind, but it wasn't the entire focus of the game, right?
Right. It was like hey, if we have to cut this, we can cut this.
I would have been fine with a game like Party Animals getting it because it's like one of those games that's like we were saying, it is about multiplayer. Like you don't have fun in Party Animals by just playing the game yourself. You have fun because you're playing with your friends and having a silly time. So to me, that's fine. Like that's fine. Like yes, it's not a technical marvel like Baldur's Gate 3 is, but so
I'm surprised.
Since I brought up Call of Duty, by the way, I'm just gonna say that all of you Call of Duty devs need to chill the fuck out.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just a joke. Like it was hilarious.
Was self-deprecating too, man.
It was a funny joke. If you ever watched any award show in history, there's always jokes that like make a little dig at someone else's expense, and it's all in good fun. Like y'all didn't need to go on Twitter and start fucking crying.
Okay, so if we're gonna talk about it, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So
if you weren't there, I don't mind saying it. So if you weren't there, I'm sorry, Christopher Judge, of course,
the voice actor for Kratos,
voice actor and mocap, right, for Kratos as well. So, kind of a famous guy in the community, and he's really fun. Do you want to quote the exact joke? It was like, my speech last year was longer than the new Call of Duty campaign. Yeah, it was the joke he made.
But it was self-deprecating, right? Because they actually literally this year had to create a shorter time window for people to talk because his speech was so long last year. Yeah. So he meant it as a joke, but
it was supposed to be in good fun. And like I assume you guys saw the tweets from like the devs here and there and stuff. And my first reaction is like, guys, the video game community. If you get defensive, even in any way whatsoever, you're going to look like the jerk. So the only thing you can actually do is be like, hey, good joke, hilarious, I love it,
Yeah, you got to own it.
And then they didn't do that. And I'm like, guys, come on, man. Like, I know you worked hard on this. Did. Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't see how everyone...
We'll give them...
We're very upset.
Give them credit.
Oh, we've heard words. You don't expect it from your peers.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you mad because it's true? Because it's true? Like...
Yeah,
like
it was a solid joke, and like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'm sure you worked really hard, and it's not your decision how long these campaigns are and all that stuff. But like, don't get defensive, man. It's gonna backfire in the video game community every time.
Okay, I don't know 100%.
I haven't played it yet. The campaign.
From working in the industry, these games are in development for fucking years before publishing everyone knows about it. It's like I have a really hard time. Like, let's just let Bobby Kotick or whoever the fuck was sitting there at Activision, like, you guys need to make this campaign less than 3 hours. I don't know how long it actually is, but I'm just throwing a number out.
Yeah,
like, I just don't think it's true. Like, I think like the people working at the studio were like, and so sure, maybe like this UI designer wasn't in on the conversation, you know, but the creative director of that game and the heads of the studio, 100% were in on like how long we want this to be, you know, like.
Yeah. Well, they
So
also have like a certain amount of pressure to release every 2 years or whatever. And so they're like, hey, like, what do we prioritize?
Right.
Do we prioritize the campaign, or do we cut a little bit of the campaign and prioritize multiplayer / Warzone? Right. So it's
I
like,
mean, if I'm working
it's
on Battlefield, I've worked on games that did just that, where they had like this beefy multiplayer and then it had like a very short campaign. And like you, honestly, I would say like you get more hate for having a short campaign than having no campaign.
Well,
Like,
that's
if
a
you just
decision a lot of people make nowadays, honestly.
Yeah, and I think Battlefield made that decision. The next one was just like, let's just not even have one because
Oh.
it was only 5 hours long or whatever it was, and people shit on us because it wasn't a built out story. And it's like, well, let's just, why are we even doing it? Like, we just put all our resources towards multiplayer.
I mean, I'll come into the defense of Call of Duty a little bit. I would rather have a 3 to 5 hour campaign than no campaign. Call of Duty campaigns were actually like the reason I started to love Call of Duty, and I'm talking about like Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2, the originals. I really enjoy them, and I would take a short one over a long one. But once again, it was just supposed to be a joke that he was making fun of himself. Like I don't think there's any world where what do you win by being like, you know, oh yeah, well we worked really hard on it. You know, it's like you don't benefit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I liked the campaign. I played it. I beat it. Was it short? Sure. Was it fun? Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't really mind. To me, the Call of Duty campaigns are always short.
Yeah.
They're always like less than 8 hours, even on the hardest difficulty. And they're short and they're sweet. And then you go and play multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like,
there's
I
nothing
thought
wrong
it was
with
fun.
that.
And I think Call of Duty devs need to just not take it personally and just realize that, like, hey, like, we're joking on this one because we liked it. We like it. We're not joking because it's shit. We're joking because we're like, hey, Call of Duty is the GOAT, and you know, whether or not you like Call of Duty, it's the standard for shooting games. Not esports stuff, that aside. But like, you know, take the joke. Like, you have all these other wins.
Sports League too, right? But yeah, I thought it was funny too. Speaking of like being the GOAT, like one of the devs actually was like, "Yeah, Call of Duty is like outsold every like God of War combined or something like that."
I know, it was like, dude, come on,
so petty.
It is petty.
Come on, man.
And,
like, do you really want to start comparing Call of Duty quality to the God of War? Also, that actor has nothing to do with the game necessarily. Like, yes, like I said, there's no winning. You don't bet. Either you make everyone look like a jerk, or you just take the joke and move on. So
I think if that joke would have happened in the middle of the ceremony, it probably flew under the radar. We wouldn't even be talking about it because it was literally the first thing that people see in the show. Like, Chris Judge walks out, like, and like I even messaged to my PR buddies on my other Discord. I was like, "Damn, right at the fucking throat! Like, kick this off."
Welcome. You know, like, Call of Duty sucks. All right, I'm out.
yeah.
And I think that's also why it was kind of heavy, because it's like the very first person just like instantly shit on COD. And people probably felt bad about it. But yeah, if that happens an hour in, like, we're probably not even talking about it.
Yeah. All right, but it was a fun moment, and honestly, it caused discourse and stuff like that. And I don't think he's losing any sleep.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this later, but I did think it was funny that the length of acceptance speech was like a joke right there, and it became a very real problem.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we will definitely. All right, next category is best sim / strategy game. Pikmin 4 took this one.
Didn't play Pikmin 4. Sorry, team. Sorry.
I have no opinion on any of these. Sorry.
Yep. All right. Next, best sports racing game, Forza Motorsport.
Great. What were the other nominees on this one?
EA Sports, Football Club, F1, Hot Wheels Unleashed, and The Crew.
Okay, so The Crew is not a very great game in my opinion. Sorry if anyone loves it. F1 has its own issues. I follow the F1 game series. it's a complicated history, and they tend to just kind of copy and paste. So I don't personally see why that deserves an award. I think it's fine. I think it makes a lot of sense. Forza Motorsports is a really good arcade sim, is what the community calls it. They don't really consider it a sim because it's technically not. It's more of a simcade, right? It's a mixture between a simulator and an arcade style. It's really good. It deserves it. They did a great job. So not much more to say about it.
Usually wins this category when they come out with a new game. Like, it's pretty common. Like EAFC, like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they won this year because it was their first year not being titled under FIFA. So I thought that could have been given them a little bit of an edge to have a chance. But, FIFA comes out, or EAFC now will come out every year. So it's the same thing. It's like it's like a minor update where people are actually expecting eventually where they just stop coming out with a new game every year and you just buy an update pack that
live service
gives you new characters
And,
so,
one thing to note is the soccer, whatever the most recent soccer FIFA, game is going to outsell all of those other categories by a huge number. I mean, FIFA, the franchise, it's one of the biggest selling video games of all time.
It's not FIFA anymore.
Well, so what is it?
EA Sports Football Club, or FC
Club, okay.
Because they basically severed their ties with FIFA. Good. FIFA wanted, I'm assuming, too much money to keep the license, and so they're like, "Fuck it, we're just going to do our own thing." Like,
fuck FIFA.
FIFA's a corrupt organization anyway. Yeah,
maybe the most corrupt in the world.
Yeah,
but yeah, EA doesn't need to have the FIFA title. Like, they can put EAFC; it's going to sell the same. But yeah, that just does dumb money. I mean, not even just the game sells, but the in-game monetization, this sells shit tons of money. So
I'm a little surprised that didn't win, but I don't think there's too much to say about it.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. All right, next category is Best Family Game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I'm not really surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great family game, and
I mean, it was a Game of the Year nominee. It's the only Game of the Year nominee on this list, so
wow.
Not surprised.
And again, we talked about this last time, but remember, everyone, I know Super Mario Bros. Wonder just came out, but these publishers or studios get these games in the hands of the developer or of the voting people at TGAs early so that they can be included here. There's just a deadline on when games have to be announced. I think it's 2 weeks prior to TGA doing nominees or something like that. Difference but they have the game probably a month before that, so there was plenty of time to get this game and included. So
Yep. Congratulations.
Right, we're almost getting to the juicy parts now. Best fighting game, Tyler, you'll be disappointed. It wasn't Mortal Kombat 1, it was Street Fighter 6.
Yeah. So I wasn't super surprised. Street Fighter 6 has been doing a great job. I've heard a ton of positive things from that community. I just have a soft spot for Mortal Kombat. I personally enjoy that one a lot. I think if you do follow the Mortal Kombat scene, you've heard that Mortal Kombat 1, albeit I think has potential to be one of the best Mortal Kombats ever made, it was a little bit rushed in its release. So it had a little bit of catch-up time. Personally, I think it's a really great game, even with its flaws. But this isn't super surprising. Street Fighter 6 is a great game, and congratulations to them. Try to be a good sport.
Yeah. Go cry about it.
No.
All right. Next is Best RPG. Any guesses?
Baldur's
Gate 3.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 took this one over Final Fantasy 16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield. I mean, not a big surprise.
Why is Starfield nominated? Anyway, move on.
Yeah. Best action adventure game.
Legend of Zelda. What game would you want to see instead of Starfield? Sorry. Should Hogwarts Legacy have been in here instead?
It's at what point is a game an RPG nowadays? Because everything has a little RPG in it.
Yeah.
I would consider Hogwarts Legacy an RPG personally.
You would
Would you consider God of War an RPG?
An action RPG. Yeah. I guess I think I would say actually Hogwarts Legacy probably also falls into action RPG.
Yeah, I would say if
online it says it's an action role play game.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next, best action adventure game. This is going up against Alan Wake 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and then Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom took this one home. Makes sense.
I mean, it seemed like it was like, to me, it was like, well, they're not going to give a Tears of the Kingdom Game of the Year, so they got to give it Action Game of the Year.
Again, we'll talk about this later. How does Alan Wake win Best Art or Best Direction, Best like Narrative, and Best like Art Direction, and not win Best Action Adventure Game?
I would argue, to me, Alan Wake 2 is not an action game.
It's an adventure game, though.
It's a detective game to me.
There's guns. You shoot stuff.
Yeah, but like that's not important.
Resident Evil 4 is on this list. If Resident Evil 4 is on this list, Alan Wake 2 can be on this list.
I don't know. To me, it seems like Alan Wake is like a piece of art. Like it's not. To me, it's not an action game. It's an experience. Like I don't care about the shooting as much, even though I just got destroyed the other day when I was playing it. But I don't know. To me, that doesn't seem like an action game. It seems more about immersion than it does about shooting.
I would say all game developers would claim their stuff as art.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Except for maybe mobile games.
I actually had a conversation about that whole thing with my business partner where he was talking about how he doesn't look at video games as art. What? And I was like, I completely disagree with you.
Hideo Kojima is about to come down and kick his door down and be like, you suck.
It just depends on the title. Really.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think like a COD is like this beautiful art, but if you look at like Hollow Knight or like Ori or Death Stranding,
Cuphead, Stardew Valley. I mean, and art is such a subjective term. We don't have time for that, but I don't know. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
I think I changed his opinion by the end of the conversation.
Okay, I'm going to move on. Best action game, Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. Some of the contestants or the nominees for this one was Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner, Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2. Sad Remnant 2 didn't get it, but FromSoft just wins everything. So,
having played the most out of all of us, having played the most of Armored Core, do you think that's justified? Personally, we loved Remnant 2, so that was my vote as well.
I didn't love Armored Core as much as I did Remnant 2. And some of my complaints, and we've talked about this in the past, but the Armored Core was that there was like massive divide between the fodder enemies and the bosses.
Yeah.
And so you would play through a whole level and you would just wipe the fodder enemies, which is like 90% of the level. And then you get to the boss and the boss is like one hit kills you. And you're just like, ugh. And then you have to go back. You have to rebuild your entire build around this boss. Then you have to replay the entire level, kill him, and then it might not work the next boss.
Yeah.
So there was things about Armored Core 6 that I didn't love. Story was just okay, in my opinion, too. The fighting was very nice. The mechanics were nice. The graphics were amazing. The building of your mech was cool. There's a lot of positives, and I enjoy the game. And I'm not talking shit about it, trying to say like, oh no, it didn't deserve anything. But I think best action game, I don't know. Maybe FromSoft, name recognition kind of gave it more of a boost than some of the other games.
So one, I think it was the first episode you told me about. It was one of the first
episodes.
Yeah, I put 30 hours into it because it was really fun. So
yeah. Cool. Next one is innovation in accessibility. Forza Motorsports took this one home. Good for them. Always looking to see more accessibility in video gaming.
Yeah, great to see that as a category.
Yeah, I don't have any details on what the accessible features were on that, but good for them. Good job. Gold star. Best VR AR game, Resident Evil Village.
Yeah.
Good job.
Best community support. This one actually surprised me.
This doesn't make sense to me personally.
This one surprised me a lot. Baldur's Gate 3, which is confusing to me because what did they do to deserve this?
Especially when did the game launch? Like summertime, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was the official launch, right? So they've been supporting this community through early access. So I don't know. Larian is really great about their community support. It's hard to compare it because it's different, right? Like the way Destiny requires support is different than the way Baldur's Gate 3 requires support. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it was well earned, but how are we actually defining community support in this case? Because it's kind of tough. It's very varying.
I guess what we have to look at differences. Like, I look at best community support in a way of like also like best ongoing game. Like,
Right.
they kind of intertwine for me a little bit. That's why I think for Baldur's Gate 3 it's a little weird.
Yeah.
And I would have said like maybe Cyberpunk, No Man's Sky, or Destiny 2 probably should have won. But then there is best ongoing game, which is kind of more that, right? But then it's also weird that like Destiny 2 is like not in there, or like or No Man's Sky is not in that one. So I don't know. It's
a hard one. It's so subjective to me. Yeah,
I know. I mean, like, how do you quantify best community support, right? Like, you count the number of threads, tweets, whatever that they like respond to. It's hard to say.
Yeah,
but it's made up, man. It's a made up award.
It's a made up. All awards are made up. All words are made up.
All words are made up.
All right, best mobile game, Honkai Star Rail. Does anybody give a shit?
I've played this, so I gotta say, when I was sitting in a airport in Michigan looking for a fun game to play, I ran across Honkai, and because I knew it was a popular series in many places. Great job, super fun, love it. We don't need to spend any more time on that, though.
It's a mobile game.
No, it's also on the computer though, and all the other consoles, so it's not just a mobile game.
Best debut indie game, Cocoon.
I have not played it, unfortunately.
Yeah, good job, gold star.
Good for you,
haven't
though.
Played it. Best indie game, not Dave the Diver. Yeah. It's Sea of Stars.
Super excited for this dev. I cannot wait to see their next game. Pick up Sea of Stars.
Cool. Best ongoing game, Cyberpunk 2077.
Also very happy with that decision. Personally, I just love. I love what they've done with Cyberpunk. I love it. 10 out of 10 for me. 11 out of 10 for me.
I won't say.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that once again, though, gets into the, like, what is an ongoing game, right? So Cyberpunk's patching a game when, like, Destiny is a multiplayer game that's it feels like two different categories.
I agree with what Dustin was saying earlier. Is like, Cyberpunk winning this is totally good for them. I don't think that's a big surprise. What's more surprising is the list of nominees: Genshin Impact, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Apex Legends. Actually, I mean, all
make sense to me.
Those all do make sense. Now that I think about it,
it's weird to not see the other ones like they make sense. This is like the category where you could see like a League of Legends in there because
true,
true, or Overwatch, But I was gonna say with Cyberpunk, I saw this. There's a lot of interesting takes on it, and I was a little bit more involved because I was in the I work in the games industry when this happened. But I saw this reporter that I actually have a lot of respect for talk about that. He thought that Cyberpunk deserves a recognition for how they fixed the game after such a terrible launch. I completely disagree. I think that they blatantly lied to their fan base or community at the state of the game, and then restricted media on what they were able to show in the reviews to help cover up or contain that lie to help sales at launch. And then we find out when it launches that it's missing a ton of content. The content's not nearly as in depth as it was promised. It doesn't look as good. It can't even fucking run on last gen consoles. I mean, the game was just in an abysmal state, and I don't think you get recognition for fixing that. Like, you should have delayed the game. Like sure, you launch a game that's a little buggy, like most games are in today's world. Like, you can only anticipate so much shit. Most have day zero patches. So like, it's okay to have a game that's a little buggy at launch, but that's not what this was. This game was in a horrible state. It should have never launched. It was like Anthem-esque bad at launch, And so it's like, no, I don't think you get a pat on the back for getting it to a state where people are like, wow, this is the game it should have been when it came out 2 years later. Like,
I mean, if they released the game that's out now this year, it would have been like a Game of the Year contender easily to me. And so,
and this is probably what people expected, right? Like, after The Witcher 3, especially, like, people had high expectations. So, if the game wasn't, and I actually am getting this game for Christmas, I already know. So I really look forward to playing because I was very excited to play it when it came out, and I never did because I am not, like Alex knows, I'm not a day one purchase person. I got a lot of shit going on, so I'm usually not just like Ghost of Tsushima. I probably will be like I'll pre-order that game, but it's very rare for me to pre-order or buy day one. So I was gonna buy it, and then I just seen that like everything happening. I was like, okay, wait, I'm just gonna hold off. And so I'm glad to finally jump in now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Oh, you'll love it.
Yeah, but yeah, they do not deserve a pat on the back for getting the game to where it is now. Like, I'm glad they kept supporting it.
I mean, I could see your point. I think I don't know. To me, it's one of my favorite games of all time now. So it's hard for me to like try to be as objective as it's hard to be objective about it, but like I'm just overwhelmed like with happiness that they did get it to the state it's in, because I knew, it when you played it, you're like, okay, like as when it was released, it was like, okay, this is super choppy. I can't really play this game, but like I see the potential. It's there. So
Sure.
Maybe they shouldn't have won, but I certainly appreciate like rewarding like, hey, don't give up on this and just go to the next one kind of thing. I mean, right? It's like the cart before the horse, though. It's like you should have just released it when it was ready.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging conversation, but
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and I
tough
think
one. It's
I
a
think
tough one because
they lie. That's where I
Yeah.
kind of say,
like I agree with both points here, right? That's like Dustin's right. Like they shouldn't be rewarded for kind of the bad behavior, but they should be rewarded at the same time for not giving up on something that they could have easily given up on. So it's like it almost cancels each other out.
Yeah.
And like I think like I honestly think they could have easily avoided all of this drama is if they had come out when the game came out. They said, hey, like months before, they were like, hey, listen, the game isn't where we want it to be, so can't release it for consoles. We're going to release it for PC on the release date as early access, and for this time period. After this time period, we're going to release it on the consoles, and we're sorry, like, obviously this isn't what you wanted, blah blah blah, but this is like the best we can do. Da, da, da. I think that would have gone a long way to build the trust that they had lost.
Yeah.
And then at that point, they could have just been like, okay, here's our plan, here's our timeline, here's all this shit. And it would have been, instead of doing the opposite, where they're like, just fucking release it. Like, don't tell anybody, but, let's move on because that's another good tangent.
We're an hour in and we haven't even got to announcements or drama yet.
Yeah, exactly. We're not even halfway yet. So I do want to take a little break here. So we're about an hour into our episode. I do want to say we didn't really mention this earlier, but this is kind of a special episode since we're going through the Game Awards. It's going to be longer than most, and we don't have any sponsors, obviously, because we're a very small podcast, but I want to use this time to say again that we appreciate everyone who subscribes and follows us on social media, on our podcasting services, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, who make comments and everything like that. It's the best way to show your support. It's free, and it really helps us, get feedback on what we're doing, and it helps us revitalize our love for doing this every week. So thank you for your support. And next category.
Okay.
So the next category is games for impact. I'm going to read the little thing. Thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. The winner for this one is Chia. Haven't played it.
Was this the award announced by that gentleman who was talking about his father and the impact of his being raised in I'm trying to remember which country it was. Am I thinking of the right?
No.
Okay.
That was an announcement. That wasn't an award.
Okay.
Well, at least the game he was talking about.
Yeah. I thought that I mean,
I'm looking at this one. This one, it's like a little girl on an island somewhere. I haven't personally played this one.
I have not either. I just wanted to.
We're gonna say gold star. We're gonna move on. Best performance: Neil Newborn won for Baldur's Gate 3. He was Asterion.
Of course, very well deserved. I think everyone deserved that award. He's been putting in a lot of community effort. And then of course, we will. Now is a good time to talk about. He got gypped on his speech length, but
That was the one, dude. Where
that
I
was the
was
one,
like,
man.
guys, so you're rushing him off stage, and he starts talking about like mental health and all this stuff. It's like, oh my god, like that alone was like the moment where people are like, this is fucked up.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I can tell you, so behind the curtain here, basically, and so basically, as they're like, okay, guys, but in the pre-production meeting, they're like, we're gonna give everyone 25 seconds for speeches, and in their head, they're like, that's fine. If we do the math, like that's enough. And so he was like the first speech, I want to say. I'm pretty sure he was the first speech. And so they got him up there, he's doing his thing, and they're like, okay, we have a lot of awards to get to next, and so
Right.
he just had bad placement. It wasn't that they were trying to screw him over intentionally or anything like that, of course. But then Geoff did, there was Geoff released information that he went and told them, guys, we need to give them more time. Like that
ease up on
was
this.
crazy. So that's why it got better as the show went on. They were actively making adjustments. But just keep in mind that, when you're trying to get this out into an hour and a half, it is, it's very stringent. We need them to go up, make their speech, and get off the stage. And so from a production standpoint, I can just tell you guys, it's just not a perfect system. We can't give everyone as much time as they want. You got to go move on to the next award. So although I wish he had as much time as he wanted to say what he wanted to say, that's just how it works. That's someone's yelling in someone's ear that we got to keep going. So just have some sympathy for everyone overall, viewers, because it's there's a lot of hands in the cookie jar, and there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, you could. You're absolutely right. You could tell as like the show went on, they were like, "Hey, like that didn't work." It is unfortunate that he just happened to go first and be the one that got cut off. And I'm sure they're gonna next year. They're probably gonna elongate that time frame a little bit because of some of the feedback they've gotten, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. Okay, next category is best audio design. Winner is Hi-Fi Rush.
This was a surprise. Yeah,
I'm a little surprised.
A game that was announced, which I was so excited about.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a bit surprising. Hi-Fi Rush has some big surprise, makes me want to pick it up. But I think Alan Wake 2 deserves a little honorable mention because they did a fantastic job for that one as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like Hi-Fi Rush, I've only seen gameplay. I haven't played it myself. Good music and stuff like that. I kind of wish Alan Wake 2 had taken it personally. The audio design in that game is just next level. I talked about it in one of the previous episodes that like when you have the spatial audio in, you can hear everything around you. Every little nook and cranny makes every little item makes a noise. Like it's so meticulous and wonderful. Dead Space remake also.
Yeah.
Honorable mention there. The sound, I think it actually won best sound in a different award.
Okay.
Not in the Game Awards, but like a different show.
Yep.
Amazing audio. Same thing if you're wearing headphones, every little thing. Horror games just do audio different because it's so important to building the atmosphere that like if you have poor audio in a horror game, it's no longer scary, right? And that's just how it is. So little surprised that a horror game didn't pick this one up, but good on Hi-Fi Rush for taking this one. Next one is best score and music. Not a big surprise. Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is known for having great soundtracks. They always have this, big orchestral, background music that is just like lives long beyond the game.
Yeah. So I definitely have opinions on this one. So obviously music for me is one of my favorite aspects of gaming overall. I mean, by a very large degree. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy 16 score. I thought it was just as good as any Final Fantasy game's score, which is saying a lot because they're all done by some really incredible people. However, I personally, I've listened to the whole soundtrack, apart from the game now, and I think it's wonderful, but do I rank it as one of the best Final Fantasy soundtracks of all time. Personally, no. I know a lot of people do. So I was a little surprised here to see this. I think I really would have preferred to see Alan Wake 2 take this for their
The
really
old gods of Asgard.
their creative take, and we got they literally performed it for us.
I know, which was amazing, and we'll talk about that.
And that was amazing. So I personally, I would have liked to have seen Alan Wake 2 or Baldur's Gate 3 even take this. Final Fantasy is great. I will always support Final Fantasy, but it was just a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I agree. Final Fantasy music, like I said, is legendary and stuff like that. The Final Fantasy 16 music, though, to me wasn't very memorable like some of the other ones. Like you hear the da, da, kind of like beginning, you're like, oh god, like that's like Final Fantasy either 7, 8, or 9 or whatever those are. Like yeah, like the Sephiroth like theme, and you just know, like, oh, I know exactly what game this is from, and I know exactly what moment in the game this is from. In 16, I couldn't do that. But Alan Wake 2, I mean, they had a whole rock band who developed an most of an album just for the game. And I personally am an advocate. I think we need more rock and roll music in video games. I just think it adds such a cool layer. But they have a whole musical number in Alan Wake 2, which is what they performed. Like, how does that alone not get the award?
Since it was such a centerpiece to the game and so integral to the game, and I was a little surprised. I appreciate that. I really like having like a really music-centric video game. Like we said, we love Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy 16. I beat it. I really enjoyed the music. But other than making it feel like it was a badass Final Fantasy game, which so it did that job great, where was like the above and beyond? To me, Alan Wake had that uniqueness. Like, to me, that's something you give an award to. It was so unique and so interesting. So, I mean, it's not a bad choice. I just was a little surprised.
Yep. Me too. I wonder if it was just because they didn't want Alan Wake to sweep the awards with Baldur's Gate, or if not enough people played Alan Wake 2. Not sure, but it's an interesting choice, but good for Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
All right. Next is Best Art Direction, Alan Wake 2. I don't think that's a big surprise.
No argument here. If you haven't played the game, check out some gameplay. I mean, it's just it like a Kojima game. It just feels like you're not experiencing a video game as much as you're experiencing a narrative. Like, it's so art direction. They took it so seriously, and I didn't realize how integral. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but that
Sam Lake.
Sam Lake. I mean, it's clear he put his heart and soul into every aspect of that game, and it's like inspiring and impressive to see.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, so for those who don't know, Sam Lake, I believe he's the writer. Let me look it up. But he's like the boss of
but he's also the face and voice of James Casey, right? Who is the fictional detective in the game.
Yeah, exactly. I can't see what his actual job title is, but he plays a character. He plays even himself in the game.
Oh, it does.
at a certain point. It's like he's very integral into the story of the design and the development of Alan Wake and Control and all those other games. So it's great to see him in all those things, and great for him, or good on him for winning all these awards. He deserved it.
I mean, to me, that was. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think that was the most important win for Alan Wake 2. I think getting art direction, even like I didn't expect them to get Game of the Year just because of the style of game, but I think art direction is the biggest compliment you could pay to them.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, next one is Best Narrative, also Alan Wake 2.
Once again, completely justified. Video games are ascending into this like cinematic art form in the sense that like it's more about this experience than. Have you played? Anyone who's played Detroit Becoming Human or Death Stranding, like you're starting to get that vibe. Keep it up, guys. This is the future. Like, this is how video game. This goes to show how amazing video games can be, how immersive they can be. I just like, it makes me excited for the future. Like, think about how how in-depth storytelling can get when we develop video games more and more, and they become more accessible. So
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
deserved.
Then, like, I mean, I don't want to go into too much of a tangent, but just, yeah, like you said, like the storytelling is like the next evolution of cinema, in my opinion, because it's interactive cinema
Yeah.
basically. And if you treat it that way, you get these amazing games like Alan Wake 2, and can't recommend it enough. My personal game of the year. So obviously, I love to see it win. Next award, best game direction, also Alan Wake 2. I
Well,
have no idea what game direction like means exactly. Like, is that
right,
just creative
compared to art,
director?
yeah.
Like best creative director or something like that. This is just like Sam Lake winning the award, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be, I'd be interested to know how that differs from other categories. It's a little confusing because in film, a director is a somewhat specific position. In games, that also might be the same specific position, but it feels a lot more distributed. So, good for them. They deserve it. But yeah, it's just another category, to say they did a great job.
Yep, exactly. And then now we're finally at game of the year. So the big one, and it's funny because Dustin dropped out for a second, but the nominees for game of the year were Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. And we did talk about this last episode, or 2 episodes ago.
No, it was last episode.
It was last episode. And we talked about what we thought the winners were and why. And what was our decision was we thought Baldur's 3 was going to take it. And look what happened. Baldur's 3 took it. Not a big surprise for us.
Yeah, not a surprise at all. I mean, the game's just an immaculate creation. I've been enjoying it thoroughly. It has a huge it's hit the community in the right place. I think that's really important. So Baldur's Gate 3 could have gone under the radar. There's a world where this game could have gone under the radar and just kind of been this like hit, small game, but it didn't. It hit home. It has a huge audience now, a growing audience. People I know who don't play CRPGs are now like, oh, maybe I should check that out. So they deserve it. They absolutely deserve it. I don't think there's any game on this list that didn't deserve it, but I appreciate giving special recognition to Baldur's Gate 3 in this particular instance, and I think it's going to help promote a genre of games I really enjoy.
Yep. And if you're interested in our more detailed analysis of the nominees and who the winner is, our last episode goes over that very adequately. So very cool. Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2 basically cleared house this year, and not a big surprise, with a couple of noteworthy variations like Cyberpunk and so on. But very cool to see. Very nice to see Baldur's Gate taking this one home and Alan Wake getting the recognition that it deserves. So good on them. Good on everybody. Very cool to see. Now we're going to move on next so we just went over all of the winners. Now we're going to go over the game announcements. And this is very exciting because this is where the hype train starts right here.
Look, I want to open it up a little bit to like kind of talking about the Game Awards as a whole, because I know there's a lot of criticism and like kind of commentary around how the Game Awards happen and what is a game release or what is an award or what is a speech and how they mix that all together. Look, guys, we're a video gaming community. I want to give them some slack on the way that the Game Awards happened this year. I think it makes a lot of sense. To me, I was really enjoying watching these world premieres intermingled with the awards. And I understand, there's legit criticism in a lot of ways. Yes, it is a big commercial. It's about an hour and a half, 2-hour commercial. But this isn't the Oscars. It's not the film industry. It's the video game industry. And the video game industry has a huge range of viewers and demographics and ages. And so the way they adjusted it, I felt was very smart and true to the way video gamers would prefer to experience content, as opposed to, right, like a traditional award show, which is just mostly people talking. I think that I think it kept me really engaged, and I think they made a very intentional decision to say we're going to take a lot of the awards and we're just going to breeze through them, and then we're gonna jam most of this content with being new trailers. And
Mhm.
despite what you think about that, whether it's a big commercial or not, I think that was the smartest decision they could make for the way that we interpret video games nowadays.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that like video game hype is a lot of where the fun of the industry comes from. Getting new announcements, new drops from developers we love, games we didn't expect.
Yeah.
Kind of all those things. And so all the commercials. That's why you go to like E3 back when it was relevant, right? Like we would go because you want those big reveals. We'd go for that Kratos coming out of the shadow.
Build the hype. I mean, I got
Moment.
hyped for the future of gaming,
Yeah, exactly. I think and we'll talk about this more, I think, in detail at the very end, but I think a lot of where the criticism for this came from was not giving the developers enough time to actually share their moment with
Yeah.
the viewers.
Yeah.
This is a big moment for a lot of people, and so they felt like they weren't able to take the time to thank everybody and to share what they had to share. And you said like, yeah, you have to stuff this show into a certain amount of time. I say make this an all-day event. Like I would watch it. Make this thing the Super Bowl of the Game Awards.
The attendees
there's
won't show up, though.
the whatever. They will show up. They will show up. Make it 2 hours longer or whatever, because it's already like 5 hours, right? It's
That's
actually
really
pretty long.
Yeah.
It was 3, I think.
Well, it started at 4:30 and it went to like 8.
Yeah,
So 3.5.
30 minutes was that like recap or like pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, there has to be Pepsi. I love Pepsi, by the way. The understanding, everyone, that like this shit costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
It costs a shit ton of money to put this on, and that money comes from advertisements, trailer announcements. So it's like, what would you kind of prefer? A scaled down version that doesn't have the live acts, doesn't have the production value, isn't at this awesome venue, and it's just all about the developers? Or do you like the big spectacle? Do you like the performances? Do you like the names that are there? And if so, this is kind of what you're going to get. And I do think Geoff needs to find a better balance. I've been saying since like 5 years ago when I actually worked at the agency that does the TGA's PR, that I hate that there's not more attention to the devs. So this isn't a new issue.
Yeah.
This is something that's been going on for a long time. And Geoff's never really shied away from the fact that this is like it's not just an award show. So, I think he needs to find a better balance than what it was this year. The speech thing, I think, is what really got everyone upset because, again, this has been an issue for years and years. So it hasn't boiled over like it did this year until now. And so I think if he like ups the speech time to 3 minutes, maybe cuts out like one act and ups everyone to 2 to 3 minute speeches, everyone will swallow the fact that they have to sit through 10 million world premieres and that the devs will get that recognition. I'm okay with some of the awards being off stage. I did think some of the ones that were on stage or were off stage were a bit weird. And I know we're kind of diving into the drama now more than we were going to, but yeah, I just think, again, like people have to understand that this shit costs money.
Yeah.
And if you want it to look as nice and have everything that it had, then you got to realize that advertisements and trailer reveals are going to be a part of it.
Yep. I agree that the key word that you brought up was balance. There's a balance to it because we want both.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do both.
Right.
And so finding that balance is a tricky job, and something that I think we'll just over the years we'll find that balance between the two. And I don't know if the solution is to add an extra hour on the back end of this and to give people more time, or maybe just 30 minutes or whatever, or to just like remove one stage award in lieu of making the other ones longer, for instance, something like that. I don't know, and that's something Geoff is gonna have to figure out.
I also am like, wait, is this the new platform doing
is this
that
a press conference or is this an award show?
Exactly. So to me, they need to define what they actually are. when they kept going back to back to back releases, to me, that's when it felt a little weird. And I'm like, it's awesome. I'm so glad to see this new game. But like, is this an award show or is this E3? Right? Is this a showcase?
It's like we were joking, right? I texted you guys because you guys weren't feeling well. I was like, every time he says world premiere, you have to take a shot of NyQuil.
Yeah, and then you're like,
thank God you didn't, because
I know you would have been dead.
Like an hour in, just drooling on the couch. Yeah.
But that being said, I want to actually talk about some of these games because I was pretty excited. So, just the first one that's in my face right now is Monster Hunter Wilds. I mean, wow! Like Monster Hunter World was so cool, and anyone who loves the Monster Hunter franchise knows they've been kind of hitting it out of the park in recent years. This just looks like another hit game upcoming. I want to keep developing the Monster Hunter world. Like, it's so much fun. It's so cool. It's such a dream and a fantasy. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I was excited when they started playing it and they were riding on the beast and stuff like that. I was like, is this Monster Hunter? Oh my God. Like it started to dawn on me. I was like, this is Monster Hunter. And I love that because I was like literally jonesing for Monster Hunter lately, which is funny because Monster Hunter is one of those games that I like love, but then I play it and there's things about it I don't love that like after like I play it until my love meets
deal with it, yeah.
And then once I can't deal with it, I stop playing. So I was like, oh, okay. But this one looks like it's open world, which would be the first of Monster Hunter, which would be awesome. And you have mounts, which is awesome. Because I mean that fixes honestly a lot of the problems in Monster Hunter for me because I don't love the whole like dropping into the zone, doing your one
objective-based mission, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I also don't love the ton of useless items that they pack into the game, so I'm really hoping that they fix that too. But I mean, at this point now, I'm just being annoying about my wants.
That's a whole Monster Hunter conversation, but I mean, it's just as far as a trailer goes, I think it gave us everything we wanted. It shows that they're dedicated to making these beautiful landscapes. We didn't really get a ton of like combat or anything like that, so we don't really know what like new things are happening in that realm. But I mean, I'm just so glad to see that Monster Hunter is becoming as big of a franchise as it is. And they're able to put these huge dev teams and make these ginormous worlds. To me, like Monster Hunter World was a real big hit for me because I thought it was just such a wonderful conglomeration of all the other Monster Hunters kind of packaged in this beautiful it ran incredibly well too. If you had like the 4K resolution, it ran like 120 frames per second, like perfect 4K. It was great. So I'm really excited for that one. I can't wait to play with everyone. But yeah, there was a lot to talk about, so I just want to keep moving. They had quite a big announcement for that Blade game, and I gotta say, I wasn't as soon as they brought out what was it? It's Arcane Studios. Is that? We got to look this up because I did not
Arcane.
Immediately recognize this team. But it's the team that does. They
do Deathloop and Dishonored.
Dishonored.
Both all award-winning games. Dishonored is amazing. I like Deathloop. Dishonored is like it's like its own category of games. It's so good. So I'm excited to see Blade. I love the Blade mythology. Like he's such a badass, which is cool. You know, motherfucker's always trying to skate uphill or ice skate uphill. Like that shit is just so cool. And if they can capture that and bring it into a really fun action game, and I know they didn't really say a lot about like what type of game it was or any of that. And
no, they didn't. No.
They just said it takes place in Paris. And you play as Blade and all this stuff, and it looks super cool. I'm excited for it. I don't know if this is gonna be like a day one purchase for me, but it's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, I mean, it was the art looked so inspired. You know what it really reminded me of? The artistic like level of what we've been seeing in like Spider-Man and the Miles Morales Across the Spider-Verse world, where the art style is just so appealing that like. Once like, I might just buy it, regardless of whether it's an amazing game or not. I might just buy it just because that art style is so appealing, and I love to see how the effort is put into that. And so yeah, I thought it was a really interesting presentation, and I thought that the gentleman, sorry team if he's like a really famous guy that I'm not aware of, but he he had a flair to him. Like he came in and he was like ready to like rep Blade and his team. So I don't know, I think that was actually one of the more like
we need more of that.
Yeah,
right?
like
in the Game Awards.
It felt like honest, right? It wasn't like perfectly rehearsed or anything, like in that sense that like they were still going off the cuff, like he was doing his thing. But yeah, like unlike Anthony Mackie, it was kind of like I was like, oh cool, I feel like I'm getting a glimpse into the people who actually dedicate their lives to these games.
Yeah, absolutely. So that one looks cool. Like I'm excited for that one. I wasn't expecting that. I probably should have been, to be honest. Like I'm not super surprised that they're making a Blade game because they're making a Blade movie and they're kind of bringing that back. And Marvel's really been pushing their video game side. So it's interesting to see. Love to see it. Next announcement, or one of the announcements, new God of War Ragnarok DLC coming out for free next week. That was a nice little drop. I don't remember them doing DLC for the first one at all. I think maybe like an armor set or something like that. So it's cool to see that they're supporting this one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a roguelike mode, which they had in the first one. And it makes me wonder if this was something they had always planned on having in the game. And they were like, just didn't have enough time to put it in the first round. And so they're like, hey, we'll just work on it afterwards. Yeah. Release it as free DLC. Although Cyberpunked it.
No, something Cyberpunk could have done.
Oh, exactly.
Well, I gotta say, I gotta talk about a little bit of my experience here, because I'm sure some of our listeners also experienced this as well. So I think it is super impressive when they're like, everyone, this is the game, and it drops tonight, and you're like, oh my god, there was a couple of those. We'll
talk about them.
Let's talk about it, because I think one of them was the finals. So we've been seeing Shroud or various other streamers playing that one. Alex and I have been playing it a little bit. It's really fun. That being said, here's the downside of releasing things like that. Hey guys, it's releasing right now. Well, what's everyone gonna do? Everyone's gonna go and download it at that same moment. So I did that. I did the same thing. And the servers just crashed. Like it was like,
handle it.
I mean, like, what could they do? But like, I remember I got into the first game and it was just like, oh, cool, I can't move, and disconnected.
Servers are like dead.
So it was like, it's like, if you guys are gonna do that, at least be prepared. Like I have sympathy.
Didn't know.
I have sympathy, but also like 1 million or more people are watching the Game Awards, and your game is free. Like, come on, man. Like, you need to like rent
all
some
those
extra
servers. They'll cost money.
I know. And the sympathy part of my brain is like, Tyler, that they don't need 1 million players worth of servers, because tomorrow it's going to be half that. But part of me was sad. I didn't get to play that night.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too technical into it, but they could have actually spun up a bunch of clusters temporarily for first day and then shut them down, which would have minimized the cost.
And they may have, right?
Hey,
so
you guys can hire me.
Yeah.
I know how to do that.
Totally off topic, but we actually provide such a good balance, because I'm like PR, you're like events, and you're like back end, like software development. So it's like we can kind of like hit this through every conversation. All of us kind of like pull from like, hey, well, let me give a little insight on this from my experience, which I think is kind of cool. By the way, the one thing that I ran into during the Game Awards that kept crashing was trying to fucking enter for that damn free OLED.
Oh, yeah. What was it? TGAOLED.com?
It was down the first time he talked about it. It said like, we're going through maintenance. And then I did it like an hour later when I seen it again. It's like, your wait time is 1 hour and 34 minutes. So I was like... like put my contact information. What the fuck is going on?
Call me back. Yeah.
But like, if anyone got through, they probably won. Because...
the first whoever can load the page first wins.
100 people entered, and
only 100. Weird.
Because I was like, nah, I'm not gonna even try. Like, fuck that.
But despite like the challenges with the finals, I gotta say, there was some other like big like dropping now kind of releases. They dropped a whole DLC patch, free DLC for Final Fantasy 16. Like,
I
just gotta say, getting patches for Final Fantasy games feels great. Like, I'm just like, oh, okay, I can go back and play Final Fantasy again and have a great time. Awesome.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised about that one because I thought Final Fantasy 16 is a very complete game. I didn't think it needed any DLC. It's already very long.
Yeah, anyone who's beaten the game, you were like me, and you're like, how is that happening? I'm not gonna spoil anything, but you're just
it literally says before the final boss.
Yeah,
before the final battle.
I figured,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, though having played that game through, like when I beat it, I was actually like kind of relieved. I like the game, I like the story, but I was like, wow, it's long, and I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm not gonna go do all the bazillion side quests.
I could definitely make a whole video about Final Fantasy 16, and I actually may. But the fact that they multiply the side quests exponentially to the last thing so annoying. You're like, okay,
it should
cool,
be the opposite.
The last quest, and then it's like, here's 15 to 30 side quests, and they all chain, and you're like,
you're never gonna get to the boss because you have all this other tedious tasks to do.
I want it to be said, Alex, I did every single side quest in that game.
You're a madman.
Yeah,
that's absolutely insane.
It was fun. It felt easy. One criticism, and then we'll move on, is like, I did not like they were like I'm trying to remember. There was like these
go
mirror...
talk to this person. Oh.
Well, it was like you'd go into these challenges where you could only use one icon, and then you had to. I personally was just like, I'm not doing these, man. Like, I'm sure it's how I get the ultimate weapon or whatever, but I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I played one and was like, nope.
No, thank you.
Done. All right.
But great, super excited to play.
What about Light No Fire? What did you guys think?
Oh, I'd love to talk about that.
Light No Fire. That's the No Man's Sky.
Correct.
Hello Games new game. Dude, he almost did it again.
Yeah, my first comment is get Sean Murray off the fucking mic, man. Like,
they prepped him too.
Seriously.
I'd love to hear Dustin's behind this because he literally they were like, okay, Sean, look at me in the eyes.
Stay to
look
the
at
point.
me in the eyes. These is the only things you say. This is it. Promise me this is all you're gonna say. And then he goes up and goes, this is the most ambitious thing we've ever done.
And you're like, you literally see him, you see the nerves on his face, man. Like, I was like, you literally see him and Geoff, like, the unsilent, like, don't say anything stupid, Sean. Don't say anything like you're creating the whole world. We're creating the Earth. And I was like, oh, dude. Like, he's probably right, but it's just like, you know why that was a bad idea.
It wasn't as bad as No Man's Sky.
It didn't fall so flat when it launched. Like, if that game when it came out and blew minds, like instantaneously, instead of like needing a long time to get to where it's at now, which I give that a break over like a Cyberpunk because No Man's Sky, that was the one that was like crowdfunded, right?
Yeah.
I don't give it a break.
It was their first game.
I'm less inclined. That's a whole nother episode. Sorry, team. We're trying not to diverge too much, but that game was bare bones when it came out. To me, that was more disappointing than Cyberpunk's release, but that's a whole nother conversation. But who is putting Sean Murray in front of a microphone? Like, I just take the leader of the dev team for that game and put him in front of the microphone.
When he said most ambitious ever, like the look on Keighley's face was like,
oh, dude.
Are you
don't
do
ambitious
that. Than No Man's Sky? Where you like we're talking about creating like a whole fucking universe? Like we're gonna create the Earth. And first thing I was thinking is like, what is this going to have like multiple like fully fleshed out cities? And then he also said the first true open world game where you can go anywhere
nonsense.
And do it limitless. Which doesn't even make sense because everything eventually has a limit, right? Unless it's like self-generating, which I think No Man's Sky was supposed to be that, right? Like,
it is.
You could just keep going on limited planets because they would self-generate or whatever.
It's procedural,
yeah. I mean, they're going to do the same thing with this game. The planet's going to be procedurally generated, right? They didn't manually make that planet. They're just going to create it so it generates like a really dense, detailed planet instead of having a bunch of plain planets. But I mean, the Sean Murray stuff aside, the game actually looked kind of cool.
It looks cool, but I'm interested. I'm definitely going to play it. Like, I have faith in them now. Like, I gotta say, when they were showing us the No Man's Sky progression of DLCs and patches, I got like pretty. I was sitting there and I was like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I remember those. And then it was like 10, 13, 15. And I was like, there's been this many updates? Like, I got to give them some credit, you know?
I'm just saying, like, this one looks good because I hope they take all the lessons they learned from No Man's Sky and put them in here. And the fact that it's going to be like more co-op based, which I think was one of the big failings of No Man's Sky, is that while No Man's Sky has so much to do in it, and yeah, it's like kind of multiplayer, online multiplayer, like you can interact with other people, it wasn't really built to be played with your friends that much. And that was it makes the game feel hollow.
Well,
right?
that functionality was late to the game anyway.
Yeah. Well,
that was
I think
years
it was
after.
always there.
You
but
could not play multiplayer in the first few months of that game. There was no multiplayer.
I think you could I don't think you could multiplayer with your friends, but I think you could randomly collide with another player.
You could not. So you would if people were like spending the first 100 hours of the post release trying to find each other on the same planet, and you wouldn't see each other. There was essentially no multiplayer when the game was released.
Well, that being said, I think No Man's Sky, while the game has come a long way and is a objectively fun game,
it's an impressive game.
It still doesn't hit the way that everybody wants it to hit, and this is their opportunity to take all of that feedback, the 10 years of development that they've had, and to start over and hopefully create something that's like fills that gap. And I would love to see it. And they've proven themselves to be decent developers. They've proven themselves that they're going to continue to support the game. He said himself that he wants to, he would love to keep working on this game forever. And I want to see where it goes. And they said they've been working on it already for 5 years, so that's promising. So we'll see where they end up. And hopefully they don't overpromise again.
Yeah, I mean, it looked gorgeous. I gotta say, it looks like a survival game, any old survival game. So, my first inclination was, okay, yeah, I've played Ark before. I've played, like other survival games. So, to me, I don't see anything new. I'd like to see how they can take this procedural generation, create this beautiful world, allow me to fly in it, minerals, and, will be interesting. So, we'll see. But that being said, speaking of Ark and dinosaurs, did you guys see Jurassic Park Survival? It was a teaser for sure. There wasn't like any gameplay, but I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. I love my John Williams music. I love Steven Spielberg. I'm really excited. I don't care if they just take like the standard survival like apparatus and put it to Jurassic Park. I'll still have fun with that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty. That's a game I didn't know I wanted until now. Like it looked pretty good. I don't know if it'll be a day one for me, but I can see myself picking that up on like Game Pass or something and trying that out. And we'll see what the reviews say and how it plays out. But I mean, I love the classic Jurassic Park. It looks intense. Like it looked really intense. Like imagine being chased by a velociraptor or the acid spitting dinosaurs or T-Rex coming at you, and you're like, I'm dead. So I'm really interested to see what they do with that. Like I want to see more. They piqued my curiosity. I want to see more.
I need that co-op though. We need some co-op on that if you guys are listening. So just keep that in mind.
I kind of have a feeling though it's not going to be co-op, but it looked more like a single player.
That Honkai Star Rail was made by the same people who make Genshin Impact.
Yes, Hollowverse.
Yeah, because I saw the Zenless Zone Zero was announced, and I was like, anime girls, guns, and cool art style. Like, I might be in for that one.
It looks like it. So Hollowverse does the Getcha games. It does Genshin Impact. It does Honkai Star Rail. There's another one, and there's also another like other developers who do these kind of games. So from me, when I saw that trailer, and what was the official name of it? You said it a second ago.
Zenless Zone Zero.
Apex, like high appeal with that modern like anime style. It comes off to me like one of those games that's going to be really popular, but we'll just have to see. So it looked fun. It looked like it was similar to Genshin, and it was over the shoulder third person style action RPG. But I don't usually put in thousands of hours into games like those, but I'm definitely like checking them out because they are really fun, and like the Getcha kind of it's fun for a little bit as long as you're not pumping all of your money into it. It can be fun to enjoy that a little bit. And we'll see.
I never played Genshin, so I've never played any of their games.
Yeah, me neither.
I was just looking through the announcements. I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm starting to realize, looking at this list, that there's no way we're gonna be able to get through all
Oh,
of these. There's like literally like 100 announcements. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna name off like 5 at a time, and we'll talk about them in like in like a group. I still don't think we're gonna get to all of them, but I don't want to bore our listeners to death by going through 50,000 different
You just
announcements.
pick out the ones that are the most popular. I mean, one other one I'm kind of curious for you guys, like Kamuri. You guys see that one?
Which one is that?
It's the one. It's like a really
That's like the ninja one.
well, like that whole thing is because that woman who was on stage, she kind of blew up.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah, tell me about that.
Oh my god, what fucking game was she working on? It was like Tokyo Ghost or something like that.
Ikumi
Um,
Nakamura.
yeah, she presented at a different award show. It might have been TGA's a couple of years ago. It was TGA's a couple of years ago, and like she kind of became like the darling of the show because she was just like, really energetic and like excited to be there and like doing like exactly how she was, but even like more so. And everyone just kind of fell in love with her. And then
yeah, she did Ghostwire Tokyo.
yeah, and then I think this is now a new studio that she works at is doing this game. That looked pretty cool. I don't know if we actually saw gameplay, did we? I think we just the trailer.
No gameplay. I don't
pretty
think.
bitchin'.
Yeah, it was just kind of like a reveal trailer. I don't think there was game. It was just like a cinematic trailer.
Yeah, so I thought the cinematic was really cool. I'd be interested to see how that gameplay turns out when it comes out.
Yeah, that was cool. One that I'm looking forward to is the more information on, at least, is the sci-fi RPG Exodus. It's by the like old BioWare developers. I don't know. I don't remember them. I think it was just another like cinematic trailer. But you got sci-fi and BioWare in the same thing. I'm in. I don't care what it is. So I'm interested to see. There wasn't a lot of information on that one. It was just you play as the traveler, and you explore the universe while avoiding enemies known as Celestials. So not a lot of information, but it piqued my interest.
Yeah, Black Myth Wukong piqued my interest.
I thought it looked visually really great. Yeah.
Yeah, is that the game that like they like dropped a trailer for like a year ago, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this looks so good."
No, there's already a Wukong game out that I think is the one you're thinking of. But it's a Souls-like, like Sekiro, kind of style. But I mean, visually, it was very appealing, and I've heard nothing but good things about the game. It's still on the short list for me.
Yeah, and then the Hellblade 2, which is that like Norse mythology game that like has like insane graphics that look lifelike. And you like she comes like out of the swamp or whatever with like the war paint and fights people. That one looks cool. I have never played the first one. It makes me want to play the first one now. So that's on my list. Another one was the Dead by Daylight spin-off, the casting of Frank Stone.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. It's kind of exciting because I Dead by Daylight's its own thing, but I thought taking the horror element and the gruesomeness and kind of it looked interesting. Like it looked kind of unique. Like I was piqued. My interest was piqued.
My interest was piqued too. I think Dead by Daylight's honestly kind of a garbage game, but the concept is really cool. And so if they're creating a new spin-off, I would be really interested to see what they do with it.
I do want to mention that the game I was talking about earlier, that's the Tales of Kenzera Za. That was the one with the guy who was talking about how this was inspired by his father who had passed away, and talks about like his culture, and it just like musically it blew me away. I was like downloading the track and like already looking for it, and then the story I just thought was really inspiring, and him being so like genuinely stoked about being at the Game Awards. Like he was the most genuine person in the entire Game Awards. Like he was just like so happy and like to be there, and like obviously has a passion for this video game he's creating. And so yeah, that was a sleeper for me that I was like, wow, I need to check this out because this looked really, really interesting.
Yeah. All right, I have 3 more I want to go over. It's actually a little more than 3, but kind of 3 categories. Unless there was something specific you guys wanted to bring up, I want to talk about the Sega announcements. I want to talk about what I guess Skull and Bones, and I want to talk about obviously OD.
Yeah, I was
But-
we have to talk about OD, right?
We'll talk about them in that order. I think we'll finish on the OD.
Okay.
So Sega announced 5, like in a very rapid, kind of almost unceremonious way, 5 new games that are in development, including Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, and Crazy Taxi. And out of those two, the only 2 I care about was Jet Set and Crazy Taxi. I don't know. Are you guys Golden Axe fans? Or...
No, I'm a Golden Axe fan actually. So, Golden Axe was one of my favorite arcade games as a kid. And I just remember one time we did like one of those like laser tag lock-ins, and we just sat there and beat Golden Axe. It's really fun. So, honestly, every one of those games, I was like, "What? Like this is crazy!" So being a fan of Capcom, I was pleasantly surprised to see those games coming back.
Nice. Yeah, I love to see it. I'm surprised it took him this long, to be honest.
Yeah. Jet Set Radio with Hi-Fi Rush happening, like I feel like they're a little late to the game.
I think so too.
Yeah, now it's like someone already kind of took the reins on that genre.
Yeah, but glad to see that they're at least attempting it. And then Crazy Taxi is always a classic fun game that like. How hard? I mean, it's not like these games are hard to develop. I feel like they're like the formula is already pretty straightforward. Like, just make a fun, entertaining game. So glad to see that they're dropping those. Next one is Skull and Bones release date revealed. This game has been delayed more times than like any other game, and
crazy.
Like half a dozen times. So now it's releasing on February 16th, 2024. So a couple months from now, and.
Hard to believe.
Are you guys do you guys care at this point? I mean, we have Sea of Thieves.
I was so stoked on this Skull and Bones when it was announced, and that was years ago. They've lost creative directors. They've lost so many people on that team. To me, I cannot see this game being anything less than an abomination. And then, unless I hear otherwise, then I'll pick it. I love pirate games. I love Assassin's Creed Black Flag. It's one of the greatest. It's probably the greatest pirate game of all time. So I've always really wanted Skull and Bones to succeed. At this point, I just got to say I'm very skeptical.
Dustin, do you think it'll overtake Sea of Thieves for you, or even be an interest?
I mean, I saw this game on the floor at E3 because I was working that show, and I was like, I fucking need this game. Like, this is so cool. And, like, long before I even was at all interested in Sea of Thieves, I was looking forward to this game. And obviously, I'm a part of the community that's been, like, massively disappointed that it still isn't out. Years after it was supposed to be out. But I'm going to hope that it's not because it's going to be fucking terrible, but because they want to really make sure it's polished and excellent. And so I hope that it's great. I hope it's on Xbox Game Pass. I don't have to buy it, and we'll see. Although I have to pay for that, so I guess it's
well, we got our 3-man team right here.
I know, right?
We'll see. I hope it's good. I mean, it's a game that I will wait to see what reviews are and really be able to watch gameplay, and probably wait for Alex to buy it and play it first and tell me if he likes it.
So the usual way. Yeah, I agree. I think I'm gonna. We're gonna wait. I'm not. It's not, obviously not like a pre-order. I think you'd have to be a psychopath to pre-order the game at this point. And I love that you're like pre-order now and get 3 days early access. They're like, we've been waiting for this game for years, and you're gonna put that behind a paywall, 3 extra days.
Not a crazy smart move, man. Not a smart move.
No, I know it's industry standard, but read the room,
Yeah, like. The faith in that game is already so low, you can't afford that kind of thinking, in my opinion.
Yeah, E3 2017 when it was announced. So we're literally talking almost
7 years.
Yeah. That is insane.
That's wild.
I hope it's good. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, me too. I hope it's good. That would be nice.
It started development in 2013, so it's going to take over 10 years for that game to launch.
Wow, better be the best game ever made.
That's like longer than like Red Dead or any of those games took. I think Red Dead was 8 years.
Yeah.
It feels like we're going to be underwhelmed no matter what. Like,
yeah,
I don't. We'll
they
see.
screwed themselves over. You shouldn't announce a game if you're not ready.
Yeah. We'll see you in a few months, podcast viewers, because we'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly.
When
Okay,
is it coming?
Hideo Kojima officially reveals Xbox Project OD.
I don't
What
have
do you
enough
think?
information to care one
I
way or
didn't
the other.
play. I didn't play Death Stranding. Didn't look interesting to me at all. The baby thing was fucking weird.
It's
So
fucking
like,
weird.
I just never cared. And I heard from the people that played it, it just was like half cutscenes, half gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, from what it sounds like, was like an attempt to do like art. You
Yep.
know,
Mm-hmm.
This goes back to that conversation we were talking about earlier. I love looking at video games in this artistic form, and I encourage it. And I think it's what he is going for. I think is groundbreaking, and a lot of people recognize that. So I mean, they didn't give us a lot of information, right? And they obviously spent a lot of time talking back and forth, and it was just like you could see Jeff is just like, "Well, what can you tell us?" And
Yeah.
so it was.
Yeah, that whole conversation was scripted, though. They knew exactly what
Yeah.
was being said between the two of them. Like,
Yeah.
nobody goes on that stage without already having the questions ahead of time and being able to formulate answers. What I did think was kind of funny, and I could be wrong because I don't know Japanese, but did it feel like the translator guy was doing like way
Cutting it.
shorter
Yes.
answers?
Yes, I felt that too.
Poor
And I have
guy.
a feeling, I know, I was literally thinking that. I was like, wow, it must suck to be a translator because they'll talk for like a whole like minute or two, and you're like, I have to say this word for word.
Really going a long time. Like when I was like, "Are you gonna take a break for your fucking translator, dude?" Like,
Poor
this
guy.
is insane.
I know.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that though, like you said, is pre-scripted so that the translator already knows what he's going to say mostly, and then just listens for differences. And he's like, all right, what's different? Oh, he said this, he said that.
I would say you would be surprised how. So scripting it's we try to script everything we can in a production because it just makes things so much easier. But in the end, not everyone provides a script, and you have to have a script writer who's going to write them. So sometimes people ignore what's on the teleprompter. It's one of those things where like I couldn't tell you if it was 100% scripted or not. Based on the way they spoke to each other, I did not get the idea that it was 100% scripted. Take Anthony Mackie versus Timothy Chalamet's performance. Anthony Mackie was not reading a teleprompter. Timothy Chalamet did nothing but read the teleprompter.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after.
Yeah.
We'll talk about.
Well, I'm just saying that's how you can see the difference. It's a different way of speaking. So, yeah, I don't know. OD looked very interesting. Obviously, it's very cinematic. We have very little information. It was definitely like a centerpiece in their mind to this game award. But we'll see. We just don't know, have enough information to know.
I know they definitely didn't give us a lot, and I know that was on purpose, but we don't even know what type of game this is. We don't know anything about it other than it's a weird Hideo Kojima fever dream. And
it's probably a horror game to some degree.
They had the PT door, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be some kind of a horror game. And OD stands for overdose, right? We're assuming. So it's going to be.
Assume that.
I think even so on IGN it even says OD overdose.
I see.
Parentheses. So I'm assuming that's what it stands for. And he's touting it as like this, like more than a game, like experience. And I think I was listening to like the Kind of Funny podcast, and I want to say it was like Andy Cortez or somebody said that, and he's like, I really doubt that. It's going to be a video game like any other video game. It's going to be different in the form factor, maybe, or I'm sorry, in the like way that it's a video game, but it's still just a video game at the end of the day. So it's like touting all these things like, oh, it's gonna transcend the genre or something. And it's like, hey, no, listen, just call a video game and say that it's gonna be weird. But I think
it's weird that Kojima, sorry to cut you off, but do you think it's weird like Kojima has like kind of become like this like legend in the space? Like, I've never really been a Metal Gear guy. Like, I didn't have a PlayStation. I had a Nintendo growing up. So I know those games are like revered, but like somehow he has like leveraged that now into being like this god amongst men in gaming. And that's obviously with the help of Keighley. I mean, like they're friends and Keighley gives him a lot of stuff. And he's also brought in like big names. Like he brought in Norman Reedus. Last time they brought in Jordan Peele this time. So, but man, like he's almost doing like the Keighley move, where it's just like he's taken something that like was successful and somehow been able to pivot himself into like the most like I don't know, like putting himself like he's been put on a pedestal above like everything else.
He's now in the business of marketing himself and his own ideas of how to create video games, and like to some degree I completely agree, and I think that's, you know, think of it's like he's the Alfred Hitchcock of video games. You know, he's being put on, like you said, being put on a pedestal, which isn't, I don't think is wrong. It's this weird mix of like, you know, he really sees this as an art form, with like, hey, it's just a video game, you know. So I kind of agree with it, and I'm like, that's a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, like if you were gonna put Kojima versus like Neil Druckmann, like in terms of like just who would you rather have lead your game? Like, I'm probably going with Neil Druckmann, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think about like The Last of Us and
Uncharted
and like just everything that basically Naughty Dog has touched has just been like amazing. Not only from like a story point of view too. I mean, like The Last of Us is considered like having one of the greatest stories ever in a video game, right? So I don't know. It's just interesting how Kojima is able to position his brand.
And I think it's because he's just kind of weird, right? And he's this character, and and people find him very fascinating. And so he's kind of carried on this legend of the weirdness that he has, and that some people think that means he transcends art. And like, he's just an artist first and a video game developer second, and he just creates some really interesting stuff. And somehow he's very fortunate enough to be able to just have the backing to make his weird art. And
that's great.
Like it or hate it, people are like, that's a thing. That's who he is. And that's just how it is. And it's very interesting to see Jordan Peele with him collaborating. I don't know how much input Jordan Peele actually has in the process, but it's interesting to see his name on things and his horror take on how it's going to work. And
it's hopeful for the story, you know, because it's going to be such a narratively driven game. I personally like Jordan Peele's work. You know, it'll be interesting. They didn't reveal much, right? They didn't reveal too much.
They didn't reveal anything, and he likes to be mysterious, right? Yeah. He's going to be mysterious right up until like Death Stranding. We didn't know shit. Even when they revealed the trailer, like we're like, is this it? Is there more? We don't know.
Is it a
it's
walking
so weird?
Game?
Is it literally just delivering Amazon packages? We have no idea. And do I think this game is going to be good? Probably not, to be honest. But is it going to be something that everyone wants to play because they're like, what is this weird fever dream? Like, for all we know, the video that we saw is the entire game. Is like faces on your screen with a black background, and you're talking to them, and the mic is using AI to create their like reactions or some shit. Like, we have no idea. We have no idea what this is going to be, because a lot of the time we look into Hideo Kojima's like trailers, we're like, there's going to be all this other stuff, and it's usually like you got to take what he shows you at face value, that's going to be it.
Kojima is a good comparison I just thought of, actually, and we'll see if they tend to have the same trajectory in their careers, is M. Night Shyamalan.
I think that's mean. I think that's
M. Night Shyamalan is one of the worst directors of all time.
Signs is fucking amazing, and Sixth Sense was like fucking amazing.
We need a whole nother podcast for what we're about to dive into, because
those are fighting words.
Some amazing movies to start.
Okay, so what is Kojima's Avatar: The Last Airbender? Tell me that.
He hasn't made it yet. Maybe it's this.
And that's my point. That's my point. Started out really strong to the point where everybody was like, hey, this is kind of interesting. And I don't know if it's going to be good, but I'm going to watch it. And that's kind of where Kojima's at right now. It's like, I don't know if it's going to be good, but it's going to get attention.
Yeah.
And then
I put him more in like Quentin Tarantino, where his stuff is actually good.
Yeah, dude, we'll see.
On Signs. Signs is a fucking amazing movie.
Signs is a good movie, but everything else M. Night Shyamalan has ever made is garbage.
Since Signs, it progressively went down. So if you put like Death Stranding,
The Happening,
The Village,
so awful. Village.
Since Signs, since Signs,
no.
But he started with the hype.
I wouldn't wish that fate on anybody. I hope Hideo Kojima comes out of that rut then, because
he started with the hype, and then he earned the trust to get the attention no matter what he was putting out, and then it just realized that it was getting consistently worse.
I like my
Yeah.
analogy better because Quentin Tarantino has like a style that a lot of people don't like, but then he's proven himself, and now he's like a really big name. So it doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter.
But I think
Hindsight will tell us whether he's a Tarantino or a Shyamalan.
is he a Tarantino or Shyamalan?
All
We'll
right,
see.
that's the big
10
question.
years.
We'll have to
Yeah, we'll
follow
know
up with
in
that
10
one. And I think though we can all agree though that his reputation held up that trailer. Because it didn't show shit. All it showed us is that they're really good actors. That Sophia Lillis, Hunter Schafer, and Udo Kier are amazing actors.
Yep, that's it.
And that's all we know. We know literally nothing else.
The Village vibe, okay? Fucking came out with signs. The Village happens. He's got Joaquin Phoenix in it. Everyone's like, oh my god, fuck yeah, that's the next dope ass movie. And then it's like,
we'll see. We'll do a follow up.
Here we go.
Nice.
Which way are we gonna go?
Where are we gonna go? Hideo Kojima only knows, and maybe even he doesn't know. He's just making it up.
He'll have to have a hit though, because I don't know if Death Stranding counts. Like, I don't know if it was really a hit.
Yeah,
It
It hit
wouldn't say
pretty.
it was a hit.
It hit decently.
People bought it because his name was on it, not because they thought it was a good game.
Yeah. So let's see. It sold 10 million copies, so it's super successful. But I don't think a lot of people walked away from that being like what you said. Like, I don't know if I would play this again. You know, like, so if this game will get a lot of attention also, but if it's kind of like just okay as a game, it's gonna slowly start to lose trust.
Yeah.
We're like, so what? He needs this
We're
game.
just gonna have to see. It's. I think everything right now is speculation. You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we do.
Yeah, we're master speculators and hot takes. So, I think we're going to wrap up the announcements. There's a lot more, and there's plenty of places to look it up if you're interested in where those announcements are. There's a lot of small announcements and stuff like that, but I think we covered most of the major ones. So let's move on to a little bit about the Game Awards itself now. Instead of the winners and the announcements, what did you guys think? I know we sprinkled it in throughout the podcast, but we want to cap it off with some more of our thoughts. And I want to bring up, so we talked about Anthony Mackie a little bit.
Yeah.
We can kind of, I guess, Christopher Judge, we talked about his thing a little bit. What else did you guys want to go over or maybe expand on?
I think too many awards were announced off stage, or not off stage, but like didn't get to go up on stage. I'm okay with like the esports ones; those people probably weren't even there,
Mm-hmm.
But like to see like best indie not get stage time,
Yeah,
and I think it was also like best action adventure didn't get stage time.
Yeah,
was really surprising. Like, those are big categories, especially to give best debut indie stage time, but not best indie.
Yeah,
I was like, that's odd.
Which is funny because like the indie games, like people really respect indie games and want to see those like the little guy win, and so to not give them stage time kind of felt like a little sellouty to me. It's like they did do debut, which was nice, but it's like people want to see like we were talking about that like genuine reaction from the little guy. We want to see them talk about it on stage. We want to be like, I want to hear the story of how they, I sold my house and I did everything and I did all this stuff, or actually I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But I do want to hear their story, and and the fact that we didn't get that was a little disappointing.
Yeah. For me, it
They
was.
should do it for Oscar. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, it was not doing like the best score, best music score live.
Mhm.
Like I just happen to know how much effort it takes to create these scores and music, and so it just, to me, that feels like a huge category that also didn't make it up on stage. If they needed to remove one world premiere to do that, I think I would have felt that was appropriate.
Yeah, or add 30 minutes. Have it start at 4.
Isn't it the Oscars like best song? Don't most of the nominees perform their song?
Not always. You have to prep the performance beforehand. So usually that performance is the one they're pretty sure is going to win, but you can't always do that now.
Yeah,
so they don't tell them in advance.
Bradley Cooper did theirs.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, many years they do end up doing the one that wins.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I mean, regardless, I think they made a great choice. Like, for example, that's a great thing to bring up, is that Alan Wake 2 performance. I text
That
Alex
was amazing.
The first thing I text Alex is, This is actually ruining the game, isn't it?
It's a spoiler. This is a spoiler.
But I enjoyed it so much, and I'm looking forward to like playing the game and finding that little sequence because it was so clearly from the game.
Yeah.
And then when Casey, right, is his name?
Sam Lake.
I'm sorry, Sam Lake. I'm sorry, guys.
Alex Casey's his character in the
Alex
game.
Casey. When Sam Lake came out, and you could just tell he had so much like joy in his heart being able to do that.
I loved seeing him do his dance because you could tell he was just overjoyed. He was like,
just,
"This is great!
This
I
is
can't
the best
believe
day
I'm
of my
doing
life."
this."
Yeah,
and he's like, "I got to make this game. I'm getting all these awards, and I get to dance like an idiot on stage." Like he was just having the time of his life, and I love to see that.
I think that was the right decision. I think it was, regardless of who won, I think that was a very smart decision.
Yeah, I love that.
I wish that what they could do with the awards off stage thing is the Oscars does also, or I think even the Grammys does during that first 30 minutes or an hour pre-show, they do award announcements and like they give people their awards, and it's kind of like the lower off the stage ones. They could 100% do that with some awards.
I thought they did do that at some point. Maybe not this year, but I remember one year where they would just do them like, hey, the show hasn't like fully started yet, but here's like 10 awards that we are not going to show on stage. And it would just kind of like pepper them through. They did kind of do them during a little bit where Geoff Keighley would be like, hey, and here's the nominees and here's the winner. Here's another nominee and here's the winner. And that was nice. I feel like they probably could have, like done a few of those more to save some time on things like Best Indie.
There's a lot of awards. That's something that needs to be considered. Yeah. There's a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
They should probably shave some down, honestly.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Simu?
Oh yeah, I forgot about Simu Liu.
Yeah.
I like him. I like him.
I like him as an actor.
Yeah,
and I like him as a person.
Yeah, I think he has a fun atmosphere to him. I remember, I felt they have two Avengers on stage. I felt like his was more smooth than Anthony Mackie's was.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
It seemed honestly kind of boring though too. Like he kind of started with the story about breaking his or tearing his Achilles, looking for laughs, and just nobody really engaged with the
elephant in the room boot joke. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. But nobody was like, ha ha.
Yeah.
It just kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna move on to the next thing.
That felt scripted. That felt very scripted. So, to me, that is something they would script, and he's reading off a prompter.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, especially if he's walking out with his fucking boot on. Right?
Yeah. There's nothing you could do. But I mean, it was a little awkward. Wasn't Anthony Mackie's was way worse. Anthony Mackie came out that drunk uncle. And was like, hey, I'm out here. Let's go. Let's talk about some shit. Yeah. Shut up.
Yeah. Shut up.
Yeah. And then Timothy Chalamet.
He was just there for the check, man.
He was like, how fast can I get off the stage?
Yeah. And I guarantee you, Timothy Chalamet showed up 5 minutes before he walked on stage and left right after he got off stage, man.
Yeah, totally.
He was he was in and out. And I kind of left myself thinking, why did they even invite him?
Well, he had it when he was a kid. He had not a kid. When he was younger, he had a video gaming YouTube.
Oh yeah, that was why they called out his gaming tag, right? His YouTuber.
Yeah, something controller 360 or whatever.
Yeah. I thought I was like, okay, that's kind of funny, but yeah, he was like, and the award goes to great. And
and immediately left. He was like, I'm gone.
Right. I'm gonna go sleep.
I have to go film Dune or something.
Yeah.
The Matthew McConaughey one was also terrible, I thought.
Oh, that was another one I completely forgot
about that.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm gonna come out and I wanted to say the thing that made me famous, all right. But they told me to say pew, 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 and we'll see how that goes. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Some of the stars felt a little out of place in the sense that it was just this is about video games, not the famous people attached to the, acting or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, it was kind of forgettable, frankly.
It was. It was. I understand that they did it. I understand they wanted to bring some names and people would go, oh my God, it's this person. But also in the video game industry, the starstruckness comes from the developers and seeing Sam Lake and Neil Druckmann and all that stuff. So it's their fame didn't carry as much weight there as they were hoping it would have.
Yep.
People thought
I think it's less for the people watching and more for like, in a way, like sponsors and stuff of like it's like a validation of like, oh,
Like
we made it.
legitimize the award.
Yeah, it legitimizes them because like, oh, look at the big names we have here. Even if like the fans don't really care, you know. I don't know. I think that's like more so what it's for. But I mean, at least he had a connection to the game that he was working on with that team. But yeah, like I was like, when he was like, "Oh, the thing that made me famous," I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And he's like, "All right, all right, all right."
Dazed
I'm
and
like,
confused.
"So
Like,
don't know what you're talking about." Like, so yeah, it was a yeah, forgettable, awkward interaction.
Yeah, especially when you have all these massive game drops
Yeah.
and stuff that you're like, this is awesome, and then you have like 5 seconds of an awkward conversation from a celebrity.
Well, the chat at the time was like, interstellar video game, and I was like, yeah, is this an interstellar? Like, it threw me off.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's a sci-fi game, so they're literally always going to be deemed this interstellar video game, even though it's not. Like, it's just, what was that? Was that Exodus? I can't remember.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of funny because I was like, I was on the same page. I was like, is he announcing an interstellar game? That's weird.
Yeah, that is weird. Was there anything else, any other drama? I mean, we kind of went over like that, the fact that the internet's kind of blown back and said that there wasn't enough dev time. I don't think we need to beat that one too hard.
Yeah, I think
the other really big one that didn't happen. So TGA has the future class, which is like,
right,
incoming devs in the industry and stuff, or something like that. Students, I'm not really sure who makes up the future class, but I guess like 60 or 70% of like 100 people or whatever signed a letter asking Keighley to acknowledge the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, as well as and that didn't happen. They wanted to address in the open remarks.
I'm honestly glad though that they didn't.
Yeah, and then a lot of people also wanted Keighley to at least acknowledge like that it's been a tough year for developers with layoffs.
Yeah.
And he also didn't acknowledge that at all. So like those were two other things that people were like very upset about. I can understand the humanitarian stuff. It's a really like the Gaza stuff, it's a really touchy subject. You know, I can understand him not wanting to go there. I do think as the face of gaming and being like, again, this is like PR stuff, like being a thought leader, you know, in this industry and someone that people really look up to and has like so much impact and voice, like not talking about the layoffs, I think was a miss for him, because I think when you're put in a position of leadership, like kind of like to go all Spider-Man here, you know, like with great power comes great responsibility. It's like you are arguably the most powerful, recognizable figure outside of like the major studios. Like you should have probably been like, hey, this is fucked up that all these great people are getting laid off this year, you know.
I don't know. There's a time and a place. I think there's so much stuff they were trying to say and do, and it's just so hard to bake in like items like that while trying to like test the climate of what's currently happening. I think it's a very touchy thing, and you'd rather just move forward with the awards.
I mean, it's easier. It's easier to move past it and just like forget it, right? I do think that is the time and place, though. I mean, like you hear that argument with like every single like kind of controversial topic, you know, like we could even go to like Colin Kaepernick with kneeling during the national anthem. Oh, it's not like the time and place to do that, but that is the time and place that that he felt. And we'll say same thing with Keighley here to take it back right away. Is that like this is the moment you have the most eyes on you, and you're going to get the most opportunity to talk to a wide audience, right? If he tweets this out, you know, or talks about it in the post event, like millions less people are going to see it. So I do think like that would have been the time and place to talk about it, especially in an event dedicated to the accomplishment of developers, a lot of whom games that they worked on, a lot of developers who created these games that are up for nominations no longer work at those studios anymore because they've been laid off since the launch. So I think, again, like I appreciate like the varying opinions on it and stuff, and I do understand like it's hard to find the time for everything, but again, like that's something that he probably should have found time for, given the event that it was, given his status in the event. There's
Yeah.
no better time for him to address it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Probably should have said at least it didn't even have to be much. Honestly, he could have just been like, "Hey, I know that this year has been tough for a lot of people,
Right.
so and so, but we're here to celebrate the positive stuff, and there's a lot of goodness," or something like that. Like it could have been
Yeah,
like a 10-second little blurb about it, and it would have sufficed, right?
Yeah.
Like that was all it would have been. And because literally thousands of people's jobs were destroyed this year, or not destroyed, but they were laid off, and it's a tough thing in an already very cutthroat industry. So
people are still getting laid off right now in fucking December. One of my good friends just got let go from his studio, from the PR team, like last week, and it's like, fuck, dude. Like I'm still looking around, even though I have like my business that I'm turning off the ground. But that was in July. But I can't even imagine being laid off in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like that's just gotta like fucking
really sting.
Like you can't even look for a job right now. You can, but like no one's hiring in December. No one really. So I mean, you're not even gonna start conversations until January. It's just a lot of stress through the holidays for a lot of people. It's a bummer.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I don't want to end on kind of a downer, so I'm going to recap some of the better things. Yeah, so the Game Awards was last Thursday. I don't remember what day that was exactly, but a lot of good announcements, a lot of big winners. Baldur's Gate 3 taking it home, Alan Wake 2 getting a ton of awards, and we love to see it. Little up, little down, always trying to learn from the past years, so we're very interested to see what next year happens. And the gaming industry looks like there's some really good stuff coming out, and I'm excited to see, and I'm ready for more. I'm ready for more games.
Definitely. Very exciting. It was a great event overall. Looking forward to all these great games, and congratulations to all the winners.
Yeah. So thank you for sticking around. This is our longest podcast yet, and this is kind of a special episode. It's going well over 2 hours at this point. So thank you if you made it this far and you've listened to every word. We really appreciate it. I know that that it can drag on a little bit, but we wanted to do the due diligence and really spend the time on the Game Awards, because this is a once a year spectacular spectacle that we don't get very often. So thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be notified when we post new episodes. We post new episodes every Tuesday at 8 a.m. East Coast time on podcast services and YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Pixelated Realms Podcast. Thank you very much.